What's up? Ghost Fictions is here, and we're back again. This is the part 10 of a story where Izuku became the shadow hero. But before we start, please consider subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Don't forget to check the description for more informations and support the amazing author Michels Ilanka for writing this story. Now, let's get into part 10. Izuku's phone started pinging with messages. It was a tsunami of messages from dozens of people. Gabriel looked at Izuku for a second, then she saw her boyfriend's usual neutral look turn the coldest cold with some horror written in it. It was also in Gabriel's instincts to feel what her liege feels. Like all other shadows, she could agree that someone must be punished. The earth started shaking, the skies rumbled, now she knew something happened. Barely catching a whisper and seeing a lone tear coming out of her boyfriend's eye, Dad's dead. Gabriel didn't know what to do or say. After a couple of seconds of processing the information, she placed her hand on his. Sadly, that didn't calm his feelings down much, but Gabriel could only ask one question. How? Whilst her ability was to be able to feel what Izuku does, the shadows do not have the same ability of seeing through other shadows nor the liege. Reading and looking for more information. Hawks was sent out by the HPSC to kill my dad, so that organization could have some control over me. Now Gabriel too released her anger, however neither of them noticed something to happen to either Gabriel or the rest of the shadows. Something began to stir with them, their beloved liege that saved them, helped them grow to their current strength. A promise was made between them, but something else too. With 1A. All of them were in the common rooms as reports of a massive pressure was being released with all of Asia, with parts of Europe and Africa feeling it too. The reporters and heroes were looking for what may have caused it. Suddenly all of the 20 shadows and dark shadows came out at the same time as Izuku's shadows unknowingly came out too. Mashiro asked. Guys, why are the shadows coming out? Is something happening again? Toru asked uneasily. The Jiraiya with their homeroom teacher also barged into the common room, or it would be better said if Izuku's shadows kidnapped them. Does any of you know why Donald and Luna took me here? A curious but an annoyed teacher asked the 20 students. There would be 21 if Izuku would be present. Problem child. A more protective tone was heard from the man. Shouldn't Zuzu still be in the Himalayas? A moment of silence occurred. Everyone bar the teacher explained. He discovered it. The TV was on with Izuku and Gabriel on top Mount Everest. There was one problem. All shadows were surrounding or flying the mountain. We see Monarch on top Mount Everest. They zoomed in, seeing Izuku holding a phone. It seems that Monarch has discovered the news of what occurred recently. A shaky tone began to be heard as the camera zoomed out, seeing all of the shadows. New additions to the army appeared. 8 dragons with hundreds of smaller species became a new addition to the immortal army of the shadow hero. Monarch. The people who were watching the news looked in fear and admiration of the young man. Then they saw Izuku and his shadows leave. Dragons. Nijire squeaked in excitement. Ryukyu would be so excited to see them. All she received were deadpans from everyone, even the shadows. 6. One of the angels started to write something for all to see in the air. Stay indoors, our liege will be turning this country upside down. Most of the shadows went back into the shadows, but it was clear that most of them left 1A dorm. It only took 2 minutes for notifications for the students to stay in their dorms until further notice, whilst hearing some teachers being flown away with some shadow angels. But the HPSC. She didn't know what was happening. One moment she was preparing to talk with the journalists, then the next a small poke was felt in her leg. For some reason she couldn't muster the will to tell anyone, not knowing that was Izuku's plan to make the HPSC president to damn herself. A revenge plan. But Izuku a couple minutes earlier. Izuku knew what to do. Instead of becoming like the HPSC, he will make themselves fuck themselves. Therefore for 10 million gold he bought a truth serum in the form of a small syringe. He gave it to one of his shadow soldiers to inject it secretly into Madam President before her talk with the reporters. Whilst he went on to prepare the other steps. 1. Currently in front of the reporters. Good afternoon, everyone. This is a meeting towards the accusations of the HPSC and Hawks killing Hisashi Midoriya, the father of the shadow hero. Monarch. Questions. Madam President stated in her neutral tone. A reporter with a head of the camera asked. So you are stating that you have not ordered the killing of Hisashi Midoriya? For some reason, the president couldn't control her mouth. No, we have ordered the murder of Hisashi Midoriya. Everyone froze, including Madam President, at the statement. The security was trying to do something, but their movements were also locked. What the fuck? Is it someone's quirk? I can't get away and everyone in this auditorium doesn't have any mind control or truth quirks. The president thought, panicking in the inside. Taking the opportunity, the same reporter asked. Why did you kill him off and what was your plan after that? The serum was still under use, with Madam President stating. It was our plan to use the murder of Hisashi Midoriya to have some leverage over Izuku Midoriya. He had become too powerful and therefore we wanted to monopolize him for only Japan. We would have made him sabotage other countries with us slowly expanding our area of control. Like we have done with Hawks. Panic, that is what she felt. Anger is what the audience felt. Sure, there were some die-hard Japan patriots that agreed to her wording. However, everyone knew that the HPSC was done for now. 1. Another reporter who came out of their shock asked. Were there other instances where you killed family members or used blackmail on Heroes or any other citizen of Japan? Yes, we had killed members of Heroes' family or friends to have them under our control. Endeavor is the biggest hero we have blackmailed for him to be under our control. She continued. Suddenly, a black shadow started to appear, with a person coming out continuing. You have killed 683 heroes, villains, citizens of Japan in your reign of 4 years. The documentations are all here. You used blackmail onto 856 people for them to do you so-called favors, including using villains to make some heroes have more political power to use for you or to eliminate people. You allowed the doors to the conference to open, making multiple heroes and police officers to enter. The cameras are still full on display. Nezu will release all of these documents on the UA website, but continuing forward. You have also made Hawks to infiltrate the League of Villains, which it might have been a good idea if you didn't risk the lives of Best Jeanist, Maruko and Ryukyu, not to mention the civilians that could have died when the Nomu was released. No one could talk from the HPSC, why one might ask why couldn't they move. Simple, Izuku's Darkness Overlord is making their bodies not move. You didn't like that nearly all of the top-ranking heroes don't follow you, so you wanted to eliminate them. Finally, the reason why you are in power. You sent Lady Nagant into Tartarus all because you and the previous president of the HPSC tortured her mentally and physically, making her snap, killing off the previous president. Izuku looked at her. At this moment, the HPSC would be under control of All Might. Causing shock from the reporters, with the heroes and police officers smiling, finally having some hope. 4. With All Might entering when his name was mentioned. Whilst I may have been informed that this is happening now, I knew that Nezu and young Izuku wanted to do this for some time. Toshinori thought to himself. He was shocked that from Izuku's powers, the HPSC was dealt in quick efficiency with other heroes and shadows dealing with the other accomplices. With him speaking out loud now. Thank you, Monarch. All Might smiled lightly, receiving a nod. All Might went to the place where the previous president of the heroes stood. Like Monarch stated, I would be taking reign not only as a national rank hero, but with a hero with around 40 years of experience running an agency and being a #1 hero. None of the reporters could have talked. All of Japan who was watching were shocked at the smooth takedown. We will be finishing dealing with the rest of the HPSC today. Secondly, we will be renaming ourselves to the Hero and Hunter Association for everyone who has bad memories from the previous name to look forward to a better future. A couple of seconds later, All Might continue. I promise you, Japan, that we will form a better tomorrow. This is a promise I have taken at the beginning of my career as a hero, and I promise to continue protecting you all. Thank you, we will have another meeting in 2 days. With that, All Might and Monarch bowed, with the duo going back to continue dealing with the HPSC. 3. One of the reporters came out of their shock. She looked back at the camera and stated. There is no more HPSC but the Hero and Hunter Association with All Might leading it. This is a promising future for us. Back with 1A. Mouths were open from everyone. The 22 humans in the common room couldn't believe what happened. In one fell swoop, Izuku with the help of dozens of heroes and police arrested HPSC. So this is the power of the national rank. Kyoka asked no one in particular, with an afterthought she added. That was smooth. 1. Momo continued. That easily, Izuku subdued the HPSC with the use of shadows, with no repercussions. Shoko continued. Sensei. Did you know of this happening? Shota shook his head. I knew that Nezu and Izuku were discussing taking over HPSC, but with unfortunate events the plans had been pushed forward. Thika was looking with wide eyes, thinking that was so fast. Aizu looked so hot, but the emotionless eyes did give me shivers down my back. She licked her lips, needing to change a piece of clothing soon enough. 7. The teacher continued. Now head to bed, brats. It is getting late. With that he left, with Najira going to Izuku's room, hoping that he will be coming back that night. That was a night when Japan was turned upside down. With a lot of shock, awe, and respect could be seen from the remaining members of the League of Villains. None of them had a grudge towards Izuku, with his shadows capturing some of the missing members such as Magni or Muscular, but now all of them were laughing wholeheartedly. Tamura said during his laughter. This was gold. The HPSC fucked themselves, and with the documents being out they don't have credibility now. Hompress did have a question. Wouldn't the credibility of All Might leading this Hero and Hunter Association change much? Even Isaacin was there, shouldn't that raise the spirits of the citizens? Toga asked whilst laying on the couch with her head dangling and her legs being in the air. Tamura smirked. Whilst I admit I hate All Might, it was only because of the two national ranked heroes. The rest of the S ranks and downwards are useless. So we must show Japan that without the two pillars, they wouldn't be here anymore. They are scary. I agree totally. One masked individual named Twice spoke. The two villains came back for their day off. Even us villains need days off, that is what Twice remembered hearing from Overhaul. Dabi looked at the screen whilst finishing his chuckling, he stated. It was funny listening that Endeavor was blackmailed. The number 2 head and has no power, that how little the HPSC respected the S ranks. Although in the inside he was glad that Monarch and All Might took down the HPSC, as he still has bad memories of his childhood when his so-called father took him to be trained there. Spinner said offhandedly. At least we know now with full certainty that Hawks was a spy. The other members of the league nodded their heads in agreement. Flashback. Hawks walked into a storehouse with some type of purple tubes filled with nothing in them. In front of the bird hero stood a patched man named Dabi. So you came? The villain spoke. He threw out the cigarette he just finished smoking and stomped on it. I did. The hero looked around then asked. When can I join? Having his aloof expression on. To the point, heh. Dabi then took a second for the anticipation to build up. It is simple, you need to kill of a top 10 hero showing me proof. There is a second part before you meet up with Bossman, but that will be told after you the first part to me. After that, Dabi walked back into the portal. Flashback end. It was only a week after that meeting that Hawks brought the body of Best Jeanist to Dabi. Was it actually Jeanist in the bag? Himiko asked in all curiosity. It was Tamura who actually answered. From Sensei's sources, there was an actual fight between Jeanist and Hawks. However, Best Jeanist escaped, but with major blood loss, with him still being in hospital. This caused Spinner and Himiko to open their mouth in surprise. But Izuku. He was tired. Mental exhaustion was stacking on and on with what happened after the gate, ignore having fatigue. 32 just after the finish of the gate. All he wants to do now is go to sleep with his girlfriends. He saw All Might looking over at him and spoke in a gentle voice. Go to sleep young Izuku, tomorrow you can visit your father. Then after a second he continued. Shota would want to accompany you. Izuku just nodded. I will, thank you. All Might just sighed, hugged him with the young teen hugging back slightly. With that All Might saw Leshi in the place Izuku was. Which was right, Izuku used shadow exchange with a shadow in Najire as he sensed her being in his room. So after ignoring a yelp from his girlfriend, he hugged her with Gabriel coming out and hugging his other side. The trio moved to his bed falling asleep soon after. No one realized that Gabriel was communicating with the other shadows, they changed for the better or for worse will be seen. The mental conversation of the Shadow Army. We will protect our liege, so nothing like this happens again to him. Ashni the Lightning Dragon spoke. Whilst the dragon was in the army a short while, all of them have the same undying loyalty to Izuku. Agreed. That is what everyone spoke in one way or another. Igris spoke out his thoughts. What about the 3 of our liege's classmates? It was surprisingly Gabriel who spoke. Darling wouldn't need them, they are too weak. In a haughty tone of voice. Eru continued. Our beloved master needs strong women. I don't like those 3, they are nothing. Even Rabbit Woman and Najire are strong. Everyone's sweat dropped, it was a common fact that Najire was always petting or cuddling with Beru, with the ant finally acknowledging her, not because of her strength, but her head pats. 4. It was finally Pain who spoke. Our liege needs only strong women who can take care of themselves if something happens to them if no one is around. I hate to admit it, but we are not perfect, and having to deal with weaklings will be a bigger risk to themselves. It wasn't often when any of the Akatsuki spoke, but Pain being the 12th strongest had some command. Gabriel just huffed. The only reason why Rumi and I agreed to share him with Najire because he befriended her before meeting myself and her being pretty strong for her age. Now I need to talk to Rumi and Najire to not allow those 3 in or any other. This was the change in the shadows. Not only could they talk to themselves, but the protectiveness increased, not wanting their liege to be hurt anymore, which included the heart. Rumi and Najire became loved, but that is what the shadows would accept so far. Help me with not allowing the other girls to ask Darling out. She received a yes from all of the shadows. 13. Once again, a surprise was when one other Akatsuki member spoke. He was the least vocal, but the most observant of them all, Itachi. Do not forget the others, Gabriel, if my memory serves me right there are. With the conversation spamming for another hour before they finished discussing. Next day. Rumi found Izuku, Gabriel, and Najire eating breakfast, with her jumping straight onto Izuku. The monarch produced a light smile seeing her, he swung her around his body with her legs surrounding Izuku's lower stomach. Hey Izuku. Rumi spoke lightly whilst still hugging him. Morning Bun Bun. Izuku replied, placing her on her own 2 feet. Breakfast. he asked with her shaking her head. Why are you here, Rabbit? Gabriel asked with a challenging tone. Balsnajire, bless her heart, waved at Rumi saying. Good morning, Rumi. The rabbit hero ignored Gabriel for a second, with her waving back at Najire, then looking at the angel she spoke. Can I not meet my boyfriend? I haven't seen him all weekend. TSK. But a friendlier expression appeared on her face. It is good you aren't dead from the Nomu. A viscous smirk came across Gabriel's face now. The twitching eye was what Rumi's expression, but before her rebuttal Izuku asked. I saw the recap of the fight, that Nomu Trunk is a captain class shadow, which as you know is high S ranked to low national level. Her boyfriend came hugging Rumi from behind saying it. I'm glad that you could have showed others the real power of yours, but how are you feeling after showing the telekinetic part? He was proud of her, whilst she didn't defeat the Nomu by herself, she handled herself the best out of the heroes present. He promised to help Rumi, but also Najire become stronger. 1. Calming down from the touch of Izuku, she murmured, reporters are more persistent than usual, but I used telekinetic power to pull myself to one place, and I am gone. Although, I must add the regeneration factor small as it may have been, it saved me a bunch there. She laughed at the end, with the others chuckling too, even the angel. But in a more serious tone. Are we visiting him today? Everyone knew what she was talking about, Izuku just nodded. Sensei is coming with us, we will be meeting with him in an hour. Amik. After seeing the news and reading into what occurred, Izuku with his full might and the army of over 1.9k went towards the HPSC building. No one made to stop him, the few people that did were from the HPSC, but they were dealt quickly and efficiently. Now outside the building, Izuku with his shadows under the captain rank evacuated the innocent. Then with his new commanders, he ordered them to fire their most powerful spell onto the building. Breathe of water freeze. Breathe of the sandstorm. Breathe of 1,000 suns. Breathe of the poison goddess. Breathe of the windstorm. Breathe of 1,000 storms. Breathe of the end. Breathe of new beginnings. From that day on, no one, even the villains, would want to stand against Izuku. Later on the day, every villain organization set themselves in to not get the wrath of Izuku Midoriya onto them. Everyone knew what Rumi was talking about, Izuku just nodded. Sensei is coming with us, we will be meeting with him in an hour. That is what All Might told to the Greenet after having the HPSC be turned upside down. It was just Monday morning, and the week ahead of them they all knew it will be a long one. After eating breakfast, Izuku used Shadow Exchange to a shadow that was near Aizawa per his instructions. The four beings stood outside the UA staff dorm with Izuku knocking on the door. It was surprisingly Kayama-sensei, otherwise known as Midnight, who opened the door. Oh darling Izuku, are you alright? No one could have predicted that Izuku, who was taller than Kayama, to be in a state where he was losing oxygen from her smothering him in her breasts. Can't breathe. Izuku rasped out, forgetting about his skills such as infinity. Luckily for him and unluckily for Midnight, 3 pairs of twitching eyes with a kick in the gut by Gabriel with 8% of her power got the teacher out of Izuku's personal space. No one noticed Kayama's nosebleed a little after feeling Izuku up. Thank you. Izuku spoke in a whisper. Currently that teacher was lying near the communal kitchen that was on the opposite side of the dorm entrance. No problem darling. The shadow angel spoke in a loving tone. I won't kill you as you are one of Darling Sensei's, but be warned thought. She finished her internal monologue with a haughty tone. Rumi gave a quick side look at Gabriel, seeing that something has changed in her sister figure. 1. Shota came down looking at Kayama unimpressed. Seriously, it's 9 in the morning. Shouldn't you be with your class? Then he remembered. Ah, forgot today is a day off for the first year hero students, so you don't have any classes until later. Aizawa grumbled the last thing. The homeroom teacher was wearing a black suit with a white shirt with it, his hair was in a bun, and his beard was trimmed. Be ready. I am sensei. Izuku replied in his normal tone of voice. Quirking an eyebrow, Shota asked. Are those 3 coming along? Receiving a nod from his student and the 3 girls, he just made a follow me motion with his head going towards the car. No one talked much during the ride, with the 5 of them heading to the mortuary. After they were identified just to be sure, Izuku, his girlfriends and Shota entered the room seeing the casket. They all thought they were alone until a white circle with runes appeared, shocking all 5. All present went into positions with Luna and Donald coming out to protect Aizawa, with Mikao, Baru, Pain, Igris and Baruka coming out too. Toby would have come out, but he was still on the mission finding Nana. The sight of 1 upper low tier international hero, a high national shadow, 5 low national shadows, 2 S rank heroes, an A rank hero with 2 A rank shadows could scare anyone off, but the circle continued to expand. The reason why those shadows came out was once again from the protectiveness of theirs, not wanting anything to happen to their leader, his close ones. But hey in. She was knocking on Izuku's door as she smells him in the dorm in the morning, but now she realized he might have left. Seeing the door locked, she went back to her room thinking if Izuku was visiting the mortuary. The room of the Korean student had a yellow double bed with multiple plushies on top of it, a desk filled with schoolwork and some paperwork from Yoroimusha. She turned to look through her closet to find some training clothes, with her soon leaving the dorm to enter a gym echo. Saying out loud, "I know you are there." Out of the entrance to the gym came a young teen the same age as her. "Sorry, I was trying to practice my skill in being unnoticed." A blonde spoke. Heian knew who it was, the transfer Chika Ashigaka. "You here to train too?" All the Korean girl received was a nod, with the other girl going into a different part of the gym. For some reason, Heian couldn't trust the new girl completely. From her practice with Izuku with him showing some nomu to her, she could identify lightly when something or someone has multiple quirks, and this Chika smelled to have at least 2 if not 3. Shaking her head, she started training and creating multiple swords at once. Heian's limit at this moment were 4 blades of intermediate strength. The hero in training hoped to be able to create 5 blades in a moment, with at least 3 of them being of a high strength before winter break. She didn't want to be a burden for Izuku, but also become strong for herself. In the mortuary. The circle with the runes made a pillar of bright light, tensing what was revealed was an angel with 12 white wings and a halo behind their head. "Good morning." Then suddenly, the angel had the lance of Longinus, Michael's longsword, Demon King's longsword, and Kusanagi pointed in his vitals with others having some kind of weapon ready. "1. Who are you?" It was Izuku who asked the question. The blonde with a gentle smile on his face said, "I am sorry for the intrusion, but my name is Michael." Some sweat could be seen on the archangel's face, especially having all of the weapons come closer. After hearing this name, Gabriel started to release more and more pressure that gone unnoticed by all but Michael. "Didn't I kill Michael? The leader of the angels, or are you a different one?" Izuku spoke in a harsher tone than before, remembering the previous Michael killing of Gabriel. "No, my child, I presume you are talking about the gates." The archangel responded calmly. Gabriel spoke out next. "Why are you here then?" Quirking an eyebrow in surprise he said. "You really do look like Gabriel. I am here to make you an offer, Izuku Midoriya." "How would we know that you are not from a broken gate?" Shota asked. He didn't want anything to happen to his favorite problem child, even if he was the weakest in the room by rank. "I quite assure you that I am not from a gate, only a handful on humans know, but not only do humans live on Earth." Michael continued peacefully. "What do you mean, and how did no one know before?" Najira asked. "Due to being Najira. You might call us the supernatural, not a lot knows because of what happened just prior to the quirk era. The humans before that didn't have quirks but sacred gears, but because of us defeating Trihixa they all disappeared. We still don't know how." Michael explained peacefully, seeing as the weapons have been moved a bit away from himself. 1. The people have heard a feminine voice saying, "My liege, what this angel is speaking the truth. Trihixa is one of the strongest dragons, if memory serves me well there are 4 other ultimate dragons." Michael had a cold sweat rolling down his neck from the information he received. The Seraph knew of 2 other dragons excluding Trihixa, that being Office and Great Red. "Thank you, Lolu. We will continue this conversation later." Izuku asked curiously, still being on full alert. "So what was you offer?" "As you are aware, gates have been opening, with them a lot of mythological replicas have appeared. Like with Gabriel or this Lance of Longinus. My offer is that I will revive your father to his original state, but he will be an angel." Izuku quirked an eyebrow with the others doing the same. "I will also help you fake his funeral." That wasn't just an afterthought message, but to let the group in front of him process. "What's the catch and what will you do to him after?" Rumi asked in place of Izuku. "He will be living in heaven with Hisashi being able to come down from heaven when he wants. His heart is pure, which is why I am offering you this in the first place, as this is what we angels seek." The leader of the angels started. Izuku nodded at that. "I will only ask for 2 things. Firstly, is that you would visit heaven for us to see the difference between the angels in your army compared to ours. Secondly, is for a contract to be formed for you to help us in a time of need." Michael stated his conditions. "I would agree to those conditions if you won't experiment on any of my shadows, and I will only help you if your faction would be attacked first." However. That was the moment Michael realized how powerful Izuku was, with him showing most of his aura on a singular target. "If you do anything to my dad that he doesn't want to, there won't be a heaven faction anymore." Izuku said that after a minute of consideration. He ignored the shocked looks behind him, but he continued. "Would it be possible for us to have a further meeting about the supernatural? It has seemed that the so-called strongest human forgot about the burst of aura he did a bit ago." Michael knew from that moment that he couldn't have beaten Izuku without losing the majority of heaven. With a smile coming on his face, he realized that the teen in front of him didn't lie. "That shall be done." He then took out a card of 2 spade. The angel continued. "Those are the Brave Saints cards only available for the Seraphs at the moment. The weapons were long gone with the shadow soldiers going back into the shadows, which made Michael calmer, but he still didn't forget about the aura that the individual released not a minute ago. Therefore, the group of 6 came closer to the casket which they saw really pale Hisashi Midoriya in a black suit. Michael came the closest with Izuku going to the other side to make sure that nothing goes wrong. Hisashi Midoriya, awaken from your slumber and rise up into the arms of the Lord Almighty. Become a follower of God and help those around you like you have done in your life. The way Michael said it was with a similar tone of voice when Gabriel went into her final form, the true form with multiple voices overlapping each other. With that, the 2 of spades went into the chest of Hisashi, a golden glow surrounded the dead man with the color returning. It only took 4 minutes for the elder Midoriya to start to twitch, seeming to be waking up. Izuku sensed that life was returning to his father with tears coming down his eyes for the first time in ages. A small smile appeared on the young man's face with him holding one of his dad's hands, squeezing in reassurance. Will my dad be alright now? Izuku asked the seraph. He should be waking up in 3 hours, and he will be returning to his former strength, so do not worry my child. Michael would always say it, but he was happy when he saw such a precious moment like this. That is why he continued being the leader of heaven after his father passed. How will we deal with the funeral? Shota asked after getting out of the shock, seeing that his life was flipped upside down once again. That will be simple, I will be creating a clone of your father. It will be identical, but it never had life. This conversation was mainly Michael talking with Shota. Izuku during this time was holding his dad's hand in happiness, then he felt 2 hands on his shoulders with one person hugging his back. Thank you for being with me. He whispered for only his girlfriends to hear it, causing smiles to appear on their faces. Fast forward. After Michael said his goodbyes to the group with the angel taking the unconscious body of Hisashi, he promised to come to Izuku's dorm later on the day. The fake body was decided to be cremated and have it placed in the Midoriya grave that unfortunately already had Inko in. Not wanting to make a huge fuss of the event, Izuku invited family and his dad's friends, which to his surprise wasn't much who wanted to come. Only the Bakugos and 3 friends of Hisashi's from America will be coming with the funeral being held on Thursday. The 5 entered UA with them having some time to spare before 1A, and 1B came back from training with Titania and Kamikaze. So with Aizawa going to get some sleep, the other 4 went towards Izuku's room, or better said Izuku used Kamui to get them to his room. Having his room fully soundproof from the instances his classmates knew what he was talking about during the bed talk, he knew that his room was safe. Luckily none of them did the deed, yet so no further embarrassment occurred. Going to the main sitting area, Izuku sighed and spoke. That was a lot to take in. 6. I think there was more things that we didn't even know. Rumi continued. Whole new worlds to see, with different factions being different religions. Gabriel continued. Let's explore those places, some homes of the gods are apparently really pretty. Najire finished, with all 3 not having anything bad to say to the airhead. 10. It was only when all of the 4 were relaxing when Najire started the conversation. I don't know if you know Zuko, but Sir Knight, I was talking to Ryukyu to have you and Rumi involved with a raid. 6. Working an eye, Rumi asked. Was that a reason why Ryuko asked for me on Saturday? The brunette just nodded. Yeah, apparently the one that they are against is named Overhaul. He is wanted because of creating quirk erasing bullets, but also because he is using human blood in those bullets. Although Najire forgot to mention that there will be a meeting discussing the Overhaul raid on Wednesday. Izuku and Gabriel looked like lost puppies whilst Rumi nodded sagely. He is apparently an S-rank villain, as not only does he lead a Yakuza organization that numbers over 200 people, but his quirk can assemble and disassemble matter to the atomic level. There are some rumors going around that the Shai Hassaikai are partnering with a league of villains. Maruko continued. 4. Can I eat him? Baru pleaded with tears coming from his eyes. 1. Everyone's sweat dropped. Izuku just patted his head. Whilst I admire your will to become strong, Baru, not every fight has to end with a kill. Then he spoke to Hisidos in general. Muscular as an example. Ignoring the shock of Najire and Rumi, Izuku just patted the ant on the head. Baru ate up the villain, which made Baru rise 1 level up. Wait. That is where the A-rank villain went? Rumi asked in disbelief. Izuku had some sweat dripping on the back of his neck, seeing the admittedly cute angry look that Najire was sending him. He attacked the camp during summer, so Dracula dealt with him. Rumi just nodded to the information, with Najire just giving a slow one at that. Talking about it, Lolu, can you explain to us about the 5 great dragons? All of the participants knew that the size of the light dragon's head was too large, so the sound came from Izuku's shadow. Yes, my liege, my sister Acnologia and I were told about them, as each dragon came from one of the 5. The creator, otherwise known as the One Above All, created 5 dragons to help him keep balance. The Dragon of Infinity, Office. The Dragon of Dreams, Great Red. The Dragon of Fate, Fafnir. The Dragon of Apocalypse, Trihexa. The Dragon of Salvation, Tianlong. Those 5 are the most powerful, with Trihexa and Tianlong being similar to myself and Acnologia. 3. 2 opposites that need each other. The yin and yang. Rumi muttered. Creation and destruction. Gabriel continued in this analogy. How can we defeat them if they turn against us? Izuku asked this question. The 4 dragons are unknowns, which is more dangerous than any other situation. Shall not worry, my beautiful liege, for I bear will stand with you to the very end. The lovable ant said, with Gabriel squeezing Izuku's thigh. I agree, my liege, all of us will follow you. Acnologia spoke with the other shadows, speaking if they can or sending noise. Thank you guys, you are the best. A group hug occurred with shadows coming out and going on top of each other. No one noticed that Izuku's room was being filled up with at least A rank energies, with at least hundreds of S rank auras being on full blast too. Najira and Rumi already got used to having national level auras from being near them, so this was nothing to them. For UA's staff and students it was another thing entirely, especially when some Captain Hatchlings came out to join in. Izuku realized that, as the name said, the hatchlings were still young, so they didn't know the norm compared to the commander dragons. But the hatchlings being on the verge of national level heroes. Students started to feel weak on their knees, with Nezu having to call Izuku for the auras to lower down. 1A noticed that Izuku had come back from his business, so they hoped that they could see him in the evening. 3. Those weaklings will have to start getting used to our auras. Rumi joked around with this after everything calmed down. This was a good icebreaker as everyone started to laugh. Izuku wouldn't admit it, but this day have been going better than he had thought. It wasn't much later when Izuku's classmates start coming in, with Izuku meeting them with dinner ready. Izuku was in the dorm living room with Najira, Rumi, Gabriel, Igris, Pain, Baruka and Raphael playing Uno, with Izuku winning. Izuku only had 1 card whilst Rumi and Baruka had at least 20, with Pain having 2. The class watched a fascinating game where pride was on the line, a battle that was broken by an excited shout from Mina, I am joining in. With the ice broken, the class joined in playing Uno, seeing that Izuku's smile was fractionally larger. At the end of the massive Uno battle, it was to no surprise that Izuku was the overall winner, with Pain coming in second. Rumi and Kitsumi both sulked, with them having over 30 cards each. 1. How the fuck can I lose? I demand a rematch. Rumi and Kitsumi shouted simultaneously. This is how the next 2 hours was spent between 1A, Izuku's girlfriends and a couple of shadows. Pain Pav. I neither know where I came from, nor why I was fighting my liege in that gate. What I am aware was when I opened my eyes, I had an order from a feminine voice that I need to kill the invaders. My theory was the wooden statue that my liege and his girlfriend were near was the reason, but nevertheless I had to fight against them. That was the toughest battle I had to fight in. It might have been my first one, but I am sure that I had a life before being intertwined with a so-called Akatsuki gate. To no surprise, I was summoned to join my liege's army, which I became the 12th strongest shadow, but 4th humanoid strongest if we didn't count the dragon commanders. I have a long way to be one of the strongest in the army, but my abilities are one of the most crucial to my liege, which everyone agrees on. But now I am happy, happier than I have been, but at the same time confused. Uno was a game which when explained seemed simple enough, but how are the humans so bad at playing it? Whilst the cards dealt are based on luck, winning is by strategizing which cards you have to place first, or was it that I could see what others had as their cards? Nevertheless, it was fun spending time with my liege and blessed that I had a chance to be resurrected to be by his side. Now I need to get stronger to the general class for me to start speaking with my liege. 1. Normal Pav. The class saw that Izuku was feeling better after the previous day problems. Rakito made cookies for the class, with the class bonding session being longer than expected. Izuku remembered his meeting when he felt the same energy of Michael in his room, so he excused himself with his girls leaving to his room. The shadows who were out for Uno left long ago prior to this happening. So when Izuku entered his room, he saw 2 figures that he rushed to hug, one which the other reciprocated. Dad. It is so good to see you again. Izuku muttered whilst hugging his dad, with Najira, Rumi and Gabriel following suit. So after talking with his dad and ignoring Michael, the 6 returned to business. 1. Amik. Izuku was lazing around, it was his holiday. For 4 weeks straight he either had school, internship, or gates. Therefore he kidnapped Rumi and Najira to go onto a secluded island, with Gabriel joining them. So when the 4 arrived on the island, seeing 3 gates about to break, with the 3 at least being S rank in strength, Izuku fell on his knees saying, I just want to rest. But that he called out. Lolu, Acnologia, please deal with 1 each. Baru, Mikau, please deal with the 3rd one. He knew it was overkill, but he wanted a break. After the shadows bowing down, Izuku went to the beach with the girls. Setting up a BBQ, he couldn't help but see a couple of people playing football. but with a head that only contains an eye and has smoke coming from the top. I don't even want to ask. Not knowing that this group are the bad guys in a different dimension. When Izuku entered his room, he saw two figures that when he realized who one was, Izuku rushed to hug him, which the other reciprocated. "Dad. It is so good to see you again," he muttered whilst hugging his dad, with Nijire, Rumi and Gabriel following suit. The five talked to Sashi asking if he was alright and if the angels were treating him well and catching him up to speed on what happened in the world. As a lot has happened during the span of 2 days. Michael started the conversation after the 6 of them settled on the couch. "I am here to tell you more about the supernatural. So if it would be possible, can you ask questions after I finished explaining?" Receiving nods, the angel continued. Supernatural is a general term to call anything that isn't human, which includes the Neo-Judish Christian Islam pantheon, Heathenry, Hellenistic, Kemetic, Shinto and many more pantheons. Neo-Judish Christian Islam is my general term for the angel, fallen, devil's pantheon, but I will be calling them the biblical faction going forth. Heathenry is the Nordic or Germanic paganism pantheon. Hellenism is the Greek pantheon. Kemetic is the ancient Egyptian pantheon. Shinto is the Japanese pantheon. I hope that it brings some context. The biblical pantheon is made up of us angels, fallen angels and devils. With myself being the leader of the angels after our father, otherwise known as Yahweh, or God, passed away after sealing Trihexa and weakening it. He ignored the wide-eyed looks from all but Hisashi. From our research you have 4 to 12 winged angels, but if my theory is correct, you have met single-set winged angels, right? He received a nod from Izuku, so Michael continued. It is the same with our pantheon, but our numbers are over 17 million. The fallen angels are angels who fell from heaven by committing sin. Both of our groups have the same general powers of light though. They number around 8 million. Finally the devils, which I might add you might need to look out for. He sighed at this point. They have a similar power to revive people like us, but the key difference is that for some reason they cannot resurrect a human with a quirk factor. He could see questions popping out of the BlueNet, Nijire if Michael remembered right. Their population is around 25 million because they're chess pieces with mostly humans reincarnated into devils. Their powers are similar to your angels but also have bloodlines, from the power of destruction which is a higher tier destruction quirk to immortality to everything, but light-based attacks, and running out of mana for them to regenerate. Michael's face still had a smile on. As I mentioned earlier, sacred gears were created by God to help humans against the evil side of the supernatural. Most human leaders before the quirk era actually had some type of sacred gear. But when they all disappeared, the people who held them had no power of the gear. That was a time when the second biblical war nearly occurred. He sighed remembering the chaotic time. Most devils bar the leaders wanted war with the other pantheons, from the jealousy and the need to show that they are still powerful. During the first quirk appearances, devils were the only race to experiment on humans with them using the people as slaves, more than ever before. However, every pantheon that still exists came together and had the devils not come to Earth except in specific areas, but now they are monitored more than ever. The reason we all came together was because humans give us strength. From their prayers and thoughts we can grow in power, but some pantheons also made an oath to keep humans safe. There was more that Michael didn't say. The devils, the race that follows desire, had done worse towards the humans at the beginning of the quirk era. After failing to resurrect them into their peerage, some devils tried breeding the humans with devils, but to no use. The children always became quirkless and surprisingly rejected the superior devil side of their blood. Not to mention a lot of people who lost their sacred gear were murdered for their uselessness within the devil faction. The 4 leaders, Surziches, Ajuka, Seraphol, and Falbium, nearly had to deal with a civil war, but they dealt with everything by publicly executing the main leaders of the failed uprising, which to everyone's surprise, was the Great King faction, including Zekrom Baal. This was a shock to all factions, but that cemented the trust of the 4 devil kings, as it was believed that Zekrom had more political pull than the 4, but it had seemed that the devil leaders have snapped and not caring with the consequences. After the resistance was dealt with, the Devil Kings made the living situation in the underworld better for all that lived there, with the devils not needing to go to the human world for anything, but to specific locations appointed by the other factions. Whilst it may have been seen unfair, the other pantheons did help the devils with resources and manpower to create a better living environment. Wow, that is only the biblical faction, right? Rumi asked. Michael just nodded. I will tell you more about the other factions in a bit, but questions? To no one's surprise, Nijire asked the questions involving the situation. Do the fallen angels have the same wing system as you do? What about the devils? Can you do elemental attacks like Zuku's shadow angels? With those questions continuing, with one sticking quite well. How is heaven? Michael had to reload his brain after the minutes of questions, but after some time he started to answer. Yes, the fallen angels have the same system as we angels, however, whilst heaven has 4 12-winged angels, they only have Azazel that has 12 wings. The devils only have 1 pair of wings, but some families have their own type of wings. Sadly, angels and fallen angels can only do light attacks, with those under a certain family can use elements, but they can be numbered in the hundreds altogether. This continued for 10 minutes, until Michael answered the last question of Najair's. Heaven is a beautiful place, there is a lot of greenery, and the night is pure. I believe that you will enjoy your visit. He finished with a beaming smile that affected the others in the room too. The talk continued for another 3 hours, with Izuku sharing his experience with different supernatural gates, such as the Heaven Castle, the Red Gate Baba Yaga and Devil Circles. The Lance of Longinus that gamer showed the Archangel said that it was a superior weapon to the original Longinus and the weapon that St. Peter holds. But the group going to heaven for a full day the next week on Tuesday, therefore they said their goodbyes to Hisashi and Michael awaiting their meeting the next week. Anyone want a late night meal? Izuku asked with the girls eagerly nodding and sitting of the high chairs looking as Izuku cooked. Everyone was tired one way or the other, but all had one thing in common, they were hungry. Did you know about the supernatural Malo? Rumi asked the mouse miraculous. The 3 Quemis are always free to relax when no one is in Izuku's room bar the 4 people. 4. Malo in her squeaky but adorable tone spoke. We had an inkling that humans were not the only species, but we never saw any evidence of them. Like I believe that they didn't know about us until Hawkmoth revealed us. Sass hissed. That is true, however before Ladybug we were rarely let out of the miraculous at all, so our knowledge is limited. I agree, but it is fun with you guys where we don't need to worry much about our safety. Kalki finished but might have stopped when Izuku rubbed the top of its head. Got some food for you guys too, so eat up. Izuku spoke with a small smile. It was minutes later when Izuku got the rest of the food out for the angel and 3 heroes. With them later going to sleep with the 3 Kwami sleeping on top of Izuku's hair. Next day. Classes returned to normal for the first-year hero students with Izuku returning back to class once again. He greeted the rest as per usual, with Shota starting the class soon after Izuku arrived. The hero training that 1A had in the afternoon was another lesson using weapons by Titania and a happier Kamikaze. Kamikaze spoke to Izuku being sorry for the organization he worked for did and thanked him for disbanding the HPSC. Izuku knew that the sword hero was being falsely extorted for him to work for the commission. The young monarch continued training and using a katana, but also a longsword as Izuku and Igris usually interchanged the demonic and angelic sword between themselves. Urza Scarlet, a woman who is a high A rank that has the possibility to break the S rank barrier, has a dual quirk similar to Shoto, that she can interchange what armor and weapon she uses. The drawback is that she can only have 5 different armors and 10 weapons and some type of storage. Kamikaze's quirk allows him to use vibrations through his body and sword, whilst it didn't have an external use like with Yoshindo. The internal manipulation has an augmenting property, allowing him to be faster and slightly stronger. This also applies toward swords for some reason. Izuku continued to analyze the 2 part-time teachers, with him shaking of the thoughts when he had to parry a sword strike from Heian. Kneeling down, Izuku swept his legs on the ground, with the Korean student barely being able to jump over with her making 2 swords trying to stab Izuku. Holding one, with the other being blocked by his Kusanagi, he pushed Heian off with her flipping in the air landing on her feet. She smirked and started to concentrate. Izuku allowed her as he was curious of what she was doing, with him seeing a light bead of sweat going down her face. The monarch saw a sword being created every 2 seconds, with 7 already floating around her, with the last one done. Heian smirked with the swords that were pointing outward sharply turned pointing towards Izuku with them flying straight at him. Having a smirk of his own, Izuku dodged the first 3, with him punching another one. He jumped over the last 4, but sensed that the remaining 7 were following him. You have improved, Heian. With that he added mana to his katana, cutting the remaining swords into bits. Her hands were on her knees whilst she panted. Izuku saw more sweat going down her face. Thanks, I need to catch up, don't I? A somewhat cocky smirk appeared on Heian's face that suited her well in this situation. She was glad that she could have more time with Izuku. You are improving at a really impressive rate. Whilst this week is going to be busy for me, I can continue helping you next week. Izuku continued wanting the best for his friends. I would love that. A smile appeared on her face, happy that she could spend time with Izuku, but when she was about to continue the conversation, she saw Shoko flying towards Izuku from blocking a sword strike against Mizo. Izuku easily caught her in his arms with him placing Shoko down. There, be careful next time, alright? He spoke in a low tone, with the white-haired girl nodding in thanks and a smile on her face. In front of the press, the Hero and Hunter Association building. The old building for the HPSC was now changed into the XA, with All Might being the president. Although All Might had full control, he still asked Nezu, Izuku, and Sir Nidai to help him run it, with Nezu hiring some people to help Toshinori. Now sitting on a long table, 4 individuals sat with reporters in front of them. At the very left sat the head of Japan's police, a female with dreadlocks, with her quirk being pressure that is similar to bloodlust, but without the killing intent. To the middle left sat a man is currently the Prime Minister of Japan, his quirk was an intermediate regeneration type. The middle right was occupied by All Might, the president for the New Xa, and to the very right Monarch sat, the youngest national level that is stronger than All Might himself. Behind the table behind them were 8 individuals, with each of the 4 having 2 bodyguards each. The 4 individuals had to discuss what to do for this meeting for a couple hours before this event. 3. All Might coughed awkwardly, which in turn quieted the press, with this being a good opportunity he started. Good afternoon, Japan, like promised 2 days ago I will update you on the Hero and Hunter Association and what happened to HPSC and what our plans are for the future. All Might looked at all of the reporters. I am joined by Hirane Kuni, the Prime Minister of Japan. Anna Kikiurawa, the head of Japanese police. Finally Izuku Midoriya, the provisional hero monarch. Those 3 names all had political and stationary powers that would make people double guess before acting against them. Firstly, the HPSC is disbanded, with all of the wrongdoings already being posted on the new Hero and Hunter Association website if you want evidence. Ox was one of many heroes who couldn't have done anything against the HPSC, a reason was us finding an exploding chip in his brain, ready to be released if Hawks or another hero was not following orders. A lot of gasps were heard. Our medics have removed them, with all of them being able to retire or continue working as heroes. There are many wrongfully imprisoned people that will be released, as they were the innocent people that were used by the HPSC. Japan was shocked, sure a lot of them read through the report that was on the website, but it was still a shocker. Our goal for the Hero and Hunter Association is to help Japan and its citizens. Times are hard with the increase of gate activity, with villains still being active. Therefore with Onakiki and Monarch, there will be more patrolling police, heroes, and shadows for your safety from not only villains, but gates too. This also means more jobs for the people who want to help in the front lines without being in much danger. With the help of Hirane we will be opening jobs for Gate Monitoring Division. More information will also be present on our website if you are interested. The mentioned individuals nodded when their names were called out. We will be opening centers where hunters that do not have a higher license from hero schools may train and raise their rank to be allowed in higher level gates. You will be evaluated and if passed you can enter the next gate rank, and so forth. This caused many watchers to be happier as some felt that D rank gates were too easy. Finally, we will be using the same idea as Europe is doing with opening quirk parks. Those areas is where you can use your quirk safely to have fun and train, you will not have to worry about being reprimanded for public quirk use. Taking a deep breath, All Might asked any questions. No one shouted, but all had their arms raised. All Might started to pick the reporters with them asking questions. Hirane, Onakiki and Izuku all had their fare of questions asked their way, with the interview lasting over an hour. The questions varied from weapons to the quirk park, but with everything being answered calmly and logically, there was no doubt that Japan will be a happier and safer place. Later with Izuku. Izuku went towards his room, some of his classmates made dinner with the whole class eating together. Now Izuku reserved a low A-rank dungeon for his classmates to go in the next day. With Gabriel out, the two started to converse. Tenshi. Want to go stargazing on the roof? It was a clear night, so with Gabriel smiling she answered. Sure darling. With the two teleporting to the roof with Izuku brining out a blanket. Izuku laid down with the angel shadow laying her head on the greenet's chest. The two looked at the stars with the moon not being seen at all. It is nice. She spoke in a whisper as there were more stars than usual. I agree. There was a pause that Gabriel noticed but allowed her lover to continue. I don't think I have told any of you girls why I love hiking and stargazing. Gabriel looked into his eyes, seeing the sadness in the green orbs. I had a friend, he was my best friend with us doing everything from camping to playing heroes. Whilst his temper was on a different level, his heroic heart was the largest I have ever seen. Now the angel was concerned with her thinking. Why is darling talking in the way that person is no more? Izuku continued his story. His favorite things to do were hiking, stargazing and exploring, which I may have gotten from him too. This not only reminds me of him, but I also want to have good times with the people I love. Izuku chuckled dryly. Gabriel hugged Izuku tighter seeing where this was going, he squeezed her hand in reassurance. He was like a brother to me, he didn't discriminate me and actively tried helping me. Unfortunately, the world wasn't nice to him. When we were 11, the doctors discovered that he had cancer of the heart, but it was encroaching on stage 3. He tried acting through it, but after a while he couldn't pretend as it had spread towards his lungs. Gabriel gasped lightly. He passed away only 6 months later. His last words were to me. I believe in you, Izuku. I know you can be the greatest hero in the world. That is also a reason why I have healer skill. This person name was K. Izuku couldn't have finished because of a phone call. 3. Picking it up, he just heard Nezu's voice. I am sorry to ask you this, Izuku, but can you complete a gate? It was neglected and it would open tomorrow. It is on the above the sea around 15 kilometers away from the ice bay. It reads to be a high rank gate. Izuku sighed mentally. Sure, give me the coordinates and I'm staying the night near Ice Bay. With that he hanged up. Want to complete a gate, then we can watch the stars on the beach. Gabriel wanted to strangle the mammal as he interrupted her lover's story, but now she could spend more time with Izuku. Sure, why not? Izuku used Kamui to get to the Ice Bay, with the duo flying towards the gate on Kaisel's back. Flying straight into the gate, they saw a cave system with water flowing from the bottom. A water dungeon. That is a first. Izuku nodded. Let's get this dealt with. With that, Izuku released his humanoid shadows, speaking. Put the corpses into the inventory. With a simple command, the shadows went towards every corner dealing with the monsters. The couple went towards the highest energy signature, with it being a tall blue monster with a long snake tail and the upper body looking similar to a dinosaur with fins. It held 2 tridents, but what Izuku and Gabriel saw, it was growing in size. A size-altering ability. It had a pure white name, which may have meant anything from E rank to mid-S rank monster, but Izuku's senses told him it was a mid-A rank monster. Lord Naga of the Water Tribe. Whilst I hate that Nezu took us away, I believe that it would be hard for the heroes to clear it. Gabriel spoke, as she sent out a light beam towards the monster, which deflected it with difficulty. I can't fault him though. Not only is it hard to get up to this portal from the water, if what Nezu told me was to be believed, then tomorrow the gate would have been broken with more problems happening. Izuku continued as he made gravity hold the boss in place, whilst Gabriel sent another light beam with much more power, killing it. Lord Naga of the Water Tribe has been defeated. Seeing as Izuku had 60 Nagas in his inventory, he placed them in front of him with the Naga Lord. Arise. After seeing that he can name them, he only chose to name the Lord. Your name would be Jima. He said to the 61 new shadows. The level of your arisen shadows increased. 60 Naga LV.15, Knight Jima LV.1, Elite Knight. Whilst on the weaker side of my shadows, the numbers should still help with gates and villains. Izuku analyzed the situation. In the entire world only 4 S-rank gates open naturally, including the ones turned into red gates. Jeju Island Washington Memorial, the Demon Red Gate, and the one in Russia that recently opened. So he didn't have many chances of getting stronger shadows, with him mostly relying on the keys and them leveling up. However, the world believed that there were 2 more, one that Gun-He-Go stated that Izuku completed with the angels, with the other one being the one with dragons that he recently completed. In Russia. 18 people in one room, with 12 of them being hunters, to be more exact Team Alpha. The other 6 were from the Russian Hero Association and Monster Subjugation Team. Thank you for coming. The man who spoke on the podium received the full attention of the 17 other people present in the room. This is the 6th gate of the rank of S to appear in the world. As you all know, the other 5 S ranks were all mostly dealt by Monarch from Japan, and it is documented that each one either had levels and/or thousands of enemies, all but one. Jeju Island had thousands of insects. Red Demon Gate, that star and stripe with Monarch entered, it had 8 levels with 1,000 or so monsters. The American Memorial only had 40 monsters, but they were on the level of national heroes. Finally, the 2 Monarch completed by himself or with Maruko are believed to also have levels with thousands of enemies. With this conclusion, there is a high chance of you all having to fight thousands of enemies. Therefore, for your and Russia's safety, you will be joined by Vladimir. Gasps were heard from the hunter squad, with the leader of the monster subjugation team giving the podium to Vladimir. A man in his 40s came up on the podium. The bold man with a strong physique not only was the strongest person in Russia, but also the president. Good afternoon, as stated from Maxim, I will be joining you. We never know what may happen in the gate. Everyone had respect for the man, with some of the Alpha squad becoming mentally relieved. But it doesn't mean we will be giving in to cowardice. If we don't complete this gate, then the chance of it breaking out can cause worse consequences for our motherland. All of the original participants could only nod. All of them were loyal, but also loved their country. We will be going in tomorrow, so get ready and fight strong, my hunters. With this motivational speech complete, they all were set to complete the first S-rank gate that Monarch won't participate. Back with Izuku. After leaving the gate, the 2 slowly flew together towards the bay where they could rest for the next day to come, with Izuku promising to take his classmates to a gate. Both agreed that this gate was way too easy for them, but Izuku reminded Gabriel that a stray knife can always kill them, or Izuku to be exact. Amik. Izuku was patrolling through the streets when he saw one particular thing. Walking up to it, he started to inspect it. Soon more and more people started to look at what their hero Monarch was doing. After 30 minutes we see nearly 24 of heroes with police officers inspecting that thing too. It wasn't long when the people started to block that part of the city to inspect that too. The thing in question was a manga bookstore showing a manga that was released before Izuku entered UA. It was called My Hero Academia. I might as well see what it is about. But that Izuku bought the whole collection, being about a story of one Izuku Midoriya getting one for all and still having his mother instead of his dad. 2. This was the day when that manga sale went off the roof. After waking up with Gabriel on his chest in the hotel room they booked, both got ready with Izuku sending 500 shadows to look for Nana. Even after a couple of months no signs were found. I might need to ask to go to Tartarus with All Might to ask All for One where she is. Izuku thought to himself, but there was no rush, mostly curiosity. After getting hotel breakfast the two leisurely traveled to UA on Castle. During the day, the class had normal classes until after lunch where the 21 students and a teacher all went on a bus. As you already know, you all will be going to a gate. I will allow Izuku to continue. Azawa started whilst being on the bus. I have booked us a gate to complete. This will be a high B rank gate that borders on A rank. Therefore the boss will be low A rank at worst. Izuku spoke to his classmates. The formation will be as we have discussed prior. With the 20 nodded in confirmation, knowing their roles in the gate. Izuku and Azawa will be to observe, with the gamer being ready to be there just in case anything happens. The tankers are going to be Rikadu, Mezu, Ijiru and Kauji. The mages will be Mina, Achako, Denki, Hanta, Yuuga and Shoko. The main attack force is Momo, Kitsumi, Fumikage, Hei-In, Mashirao, Tenya and Shika. Finally the support will be Hitachi, Turu, Kyoka. With some having two roles such as Mezu and Kauji also being part of support. Whilst rare to have a large party, the group will be taking a gate that will have larger monsters than commonly seen. Whilst in the future raids this group number may be a problem, I know we can make this work. Izuku cheered them on with a light smile. Light conversations began to start between the students as the bus will be taking another 15 minutes to get to the portal. This will be my second gate, the last one we did with Ketsubetsu was quite simple. Mina started to talk about the gates. Hey, inside. Yoroi Musha is making every sidekick help with E and D rank gates, and I already done over 5 with them. The Ice Princess nodded to that. Endeavor is making us do E to C ranks at least once a week. He banned us to go into B and upwards without an S rank hero. Doesn't that mean he is caring about your safety? Especially since you are his daughter? Kyoka asked. That old geezer thinks we are still too inexperienced. Silence came to what Kitsumi said. Whilst many didn't want to admit it, they were first-year students that started to control their quirks to use their full potential barely 6 months ago. Then you butted in. What he said is true, lack of experience kills. It is better for us to slowly start increasing the ranks of gates we can go in. Izuku put in 2 cents. What Tenya said is correct, Kaken. Even at the start I only entered E and D rank gates, with slowly entering higher ranks. The first time I entered an S rank I could have died, only luck saved me then. So before I entered another high ranked, I trained and practiced more in the lower dungeons. Kitsumi nodded begrudgingly. Additionally, the HXH still has the rule that hero students with provisional license can only go to the gate with their rank level, otherwise be a support for a rank higher. As everyone here is at least B rank with some in A rank, everyone can go into this high B rank gate. 1. Just as he said so, the bus stopped near the gate entrance. Izuku clapped. Remember, me and Sensei always have your back, so don't worry. With that, Izuku met up with the gate control unit of HXH, and after the formalities, the 22 people went in. Inside the gate, Izuku and Aizawa went to the back, with Gabriel coming out to talk. Good morning, Gabriel. The teacher greeted the shadow. Good morning to you too, Gabriel said with a small smile. Izuku began to talk to the two. From what I researched, this gate will be full of snow golems. They may be as fast as a low B rank, but their resistance is higher being at low A rank. Gabriel nodded with Shota. And here they come. Gabriel started, with the 3 seeing that the long-distance attack group shot their attacks with Dark Shadow, making the finishing move. They are becoming stronger. I know that at the end of this school year everyone in the class will be at least A rank. Shota complimented for once, having a smile on his face. Izuku nodded. I will also be arising these monsters. How come, Izuku? Shota asked curiously. I have over 1,000 spaces to use. Izuku ignored Shota's eyes widening. And these snow golems are good for protection, but also decisive finishes as their strength isn't nothing to scoff at. Arise. With that, the snow golems started to rise up, with some of 1A looking behind them to see Izuku getting a new shadow. The shadow was around 5 meters tall with a bulky tone, with their arms reaching the ground. Its color was black with light blue where the snow spikes have been. The shadow has been upgraded. Snow Golem LV.1, Night. Understandable, I guess. Shota said as he saw Heian cut another snow golem in half, whilst Kayaka sent out a sound wave allowing Chika to toss Denki in the air, electrocuting the monster to death. Do Snow Golem LV.1, Night. As time went on, more and more monsters appeared and more shadows Izuku arose, in total getting 54 snow golems. Now they were in the large room, that was the boss room. The boss was larger than the snow golems by at least 3 times, with more snow being produced. Be careful, this monster can control an element. Izuku warned them. Lord of the Snow Golems Golu. Whilst being a pure white name, Izuku thought it was around level 5 Knight. Whilst it will be a struggle for his classmates not him. Izuku theorized that the shadow will be at a higher level, that similarly occurred with the snow golems. The plan was simple for 1A Momo created heat grenades that will be thrown after the tankers block the first attack. This plan was being followed as predicted, with Kitsumi flying high to distract it for Hanta to tie its legs up, allowing Mina and Shoko to throw their attacks at the boss. However, the second part wasn't completed. The monster backed away after the heat grenades, making snow start to form into balls. Tenya and Rikadu broke the flying snowballs with their strengths, having Yuga shoot his naval laser at the monster. Toru sneaked behind the monster, placing an explosive bomb on its legs, with Tsuyu pulling Toru back when the explosion occurred. But the dust and snow in the air, Mezu and Kayaka sensed the monster with Mashiru and Kauji, needing to block another barrage of snowballs. Kitsumi used her AP shot distracting it for Ichako to touch the monster and place a metal disc on its body, having Denki shoot it. Chika used her speed and a sword to cut its arm off, allowing Hanta to tie its legs up properly. This allowed Fumikage to release Dark Shadow to punch it, and finally, Kitsumi fell from the air with her sword cutting its head off. Lord of the Snow Golems Golu has been defeated. Clapping his hands. Well done. You didn't panic when your plan failed at first and defeated the boss in just 2 minutes. Turning to Izawa, Izuku asked. I think they can go into a low A rank dungeon next time. With the teacher nodding in confirmation. Walking up to the dead monster, Izuku said, arise Golu. But that a shadow version of the Lord of the Snow Golems appeared, with Izuku theory becoming true. Golu LV.20, Night. But that the shadow soldier went into Izuku's shadow, and Izuku said. I got the crystals and the bodies with me, so if you want, I can sell them and give you the reward. After nodding, the 23 went outside with Gabriel and Izuku talking. Sir Night-Eye's agency meeting room an hour after the gate. It was a surprise to many seeing the number of heroes in the meeting room. Sir Night-Eye with his 2 sidekicks stood up front, with his intern Lemillion sitting on the table. 15 local heroes, Rocklock, Fatgum with his intern Suneater, Ryukyu with her intern Najire-chan, Maruko. 2 people seemed to be missing, but as fated, the door opened revealing Shota Izawa and a shadow soldier named Beru. The teacher said. I am sorry, Izuku couldn't come here as he has a meeting with the Prime Minister. Beru. It's nice seeing you again. Rumi said whilst she patted the ant shadow on the head. 1. Night-Eye just sighed at that. I guess that is acceptable. I am also guessing that Beru here is instead of Monarch. Beru was ordered to be nice and cooperative, with the promise of watching dramas later, with it nodding. My liege asked his lowly servant to oversee these preparations for taking the villain down. Everyone nodded at this, ignoring the lowly servant part. Beru was a known shadow of Izuku since the all-for-one fight, with people knowing he was in the national levels. Continuing on, we have found more details. Fatgum, would you mind? Sir Night-Eye asked. Fatgum nodded. When I was patrolling the city with Suneater, we had to stop a small gang war. However, at the end, Suneater was shot using this. He showed a small plastic bag containing a bullet with the inside being half full. This is a quirk erasing bullet, or at least a quirk erasing bullet for 4 hours. With some research there was blood in the bullet. But we were already aware of this. Then he got another bag out. A couple days later, we got another one, but this time the effects lasted for a full day. At this rate, we are predicting that they will develop a bullet that erases quirks completely. Some gasps were heard around the table, but Sir Night-Eye continued. Thank you Fatgum. We have finally found the residence and we will be attacking the Sunday. He looked around every face, him continuing. The reason for it is because everyone including the 8 precepts of death and overhaul will be there then. Any questions? There were some questions with Beru actually asking one. The power that Flesh Bag Leader has, does it work the same way as the Potato Man student has? Sir Night-Eye blinked dumbly, with Rumi translating. Beru is asking if overhaul has a similar quirk to Tamura Shigaraki. But Sir Night-Eye nodding in agreement to the question. Then that power does not work on the greatest army. Beru nodded resolutely. But everyone understood that overhaul's quirk is useless on the shadows, allowing them to actually fight the villain without dying. Izuku Pav. I sighed happily, finally I got a contract with the Japanese government and the HXH, that was a reason why I missed the meeting for the overhaul raid. Beru appeared near me, with the shadow speaking. My liege, the humans who are organizing the raid said that it will commence this Sunday. May this servant of yours join too? I couldn't help the small smile. Sure, I won't mind, I said with a pat on Barry's head. With that, the shadow soldier went back to my shadow. Toby, Zetsu. Did you find anything? I asked the duo who were in command in search of Nana. The two arose and shook their head, with Zetsu giving me a map of Japan. Over 2/3 of Japan have been searched with every possible location, but still no luck, or the base where Nana was hidden is really secretive, I thought to myself. Thank you, keep up the good work. Now I have to finish the preparations for the fake funeral. Russian S-rank gate. Fuck. How could we deal with this? A person shouted. What actually happened, one might ask. The Alpha Squad and Vladimir failed to complete the gate. Out of the 12 Alpha Squad members, only one survived. She was the one that got an unconscious Vladimir out. Her final words were, "Poison, it's poisonous and nothing can protect us from it." Then she fell unconscious. The news spread fast in Russia that the S-rank gate failed, with multiple S-rank heroes who were not in the Alpha Squad arrived. The medics started to treat the president of Russia and the surviving Alpha Squad member. Shit, we can only put them in a medically induced coma. What the fuck is this poison? The frantic medic was saying he had a healing quirk, but it was similar to Recovery Girl's quirk. Another medical staff member spoke. There are 2 S-rank healers in the world. The Korean one who is retired and won't leave Korea at all, and Monarch. He might get these 2 properly healed. Outside the medical unit, over 15 S-rank heroes and over 50 A-rank heroes are on standby in case the S-rank gate spits out monsters. This is bad, one of the heroes said. Behind him stood the Russian army in case the worst comes. I agree, the top squad in the country is taken out and our president too. How on earth does Monarch deal with these gates? Frustration was occurring, but each of the heroes' respect for Monarch increased for completing multiple S-rank gates. The vice president voice was heard in a call with the Monster Subjugation Unit commander. I will call the Hero and Hunter Commission of Japan to ask if we can have Monarch's help to not only heal our injured, but deal with the gate. The vice president finished. Izuku just finished a gate by himself, but when he left the portal, he wasn't in the same place as before. Looking around, Izuku spotted he was on a road. With no cars around, he tried to connect to the internet, but with no use. What the fuck is happening? Then seeing a car, he asked for it to be pulled over. Seeing that 2 men were inside the car, one frail with glasses, the other with white hair and tinted glasses. Excuse me, but which way is it to UA? Izuku asked sheepishly. One. Both men blinked, or at least Izuku thought the white-haired man blinked too. UA? What is that? A school? The white-haired man asked. It was Izuku's turn to blink. Don't you know? A high school to train heroes. For them to use their quirks? Izuku asked unsurely. Are you alright there, young man? The frail man asked, but to the surprise of both Izuku and that man, the white-haired man exited the car. You're strong, but you don't even have any cursed energy, but a different source. Then the white man pulled his blindfold off. What are you? A sharp stare was given towards Izuku. Izuku just blinked. Cursed energy? I do have mana. Izuku then used infinity to block the white-haired man's punch. And now? What are you doing? The white-haired man couldn't help but smirk. You also have the same ability as I Infinity. Name is Satoru Gojo and you. A lazy smirk appeared on Satoru's face. Izuku Midoriya. A smile appeared but with closed eyes. Izuku knew what will happen. When Satoru rushed forward, Izuku opened his eyes, revealing his Sharingan in the Mangekyo version, and used permeability to make Satoru fly through Izuku. Then Satoru teleported towards Izuku with the green net blocking and parrying every strike that the older male sent out. Izuku used sprint to get behind Satoru and whispered, "You're weak," to try and get the white-haired man of his game. All that accomplished was making a tick mark appear on Satoru's face. "You twerp. Blue. Blue." Izuku parroted, sending his own blue to intercept Gojo's one. With some debris flying around, Izuku used stealth and dragons, will not only make Satoru weaker and sneak up on him from behind. The white-haired man, not wanting to lose, had a different trump card. Domain expansion, unlimited void. Getting Izuku in it. But to his surprise, Izuku did his own. Domain expansion, total darkness. The 2 domains fought for dominance with neither of them winning, making both break. Want to finish? I still need to find a way home. Izuku asked. Sure, why not? With that, Izuku Midoriya and Satoru Gojo became friends, with a love of fighting, teasing Fushiguro and having fun with each other. Thursday. It was a day that the fake funeral of Hisashi Midoriya will occur. So now Izuku was meeting the 3 friends of his dad from America. Next to him were Nijire, Rumi, Aizawa, and the Bakugo family. The morning was saying their goodbyes to the fake body of Hisashi. Izuku even had a few tears. It only took 30 minutes for the body to be cremated from a quirk user. The ashes were placed in a vase and finally placed into the Midoriya grave, where Inko Midoriya laid. At the back, some of Izuku's shadows stayed to say their respects towards their liege's father's fake funeral. The service was short, but after that Izuku invited everyone for a meal in gratitude for coming to the funeral. Izuku also arranged hotel rooms for the guests that came from America, as Izuku found out that those were his dad's real friends. Friday. The next day Izuku used Kamui to travel to America as it was his internship day. Kathleen decided for night patrolling and showing Izuku how night patrols differ from day patrols. Izuku was going to miss school as it is already nighttime in America, whilst Japan has the sun still showing. How's Zest? I haven't seen her since the sword practice, and why didn't you tell me that she was going to teach it you, eh? Izuku playfully glared at his sister figure that he secretly placed a Leshy shadow in. The #1 hero of America chuckled. She actually wanted to try teaching, now she is thinking of being a teacher on the side. Also, we will be meeting Zest at the end of the patrol. At the end, Kath had a knowing smirk that Izuku rolled his eyes to. But a serious tone. I have placed an 8-wing angel in Zest's shadow and a Leshy in yours. Seeing that his teacher was about to say something, Izuku continued. I don't want to lose anyone. Kathleen flinched lightly, reminded that Izuku's father was killed recently. So if you are in a bind, the Leshy will help, or you can call me for help and I can teleport to you. The Leshy is in the captain class, meaning high S rank to low national level. In a lower tone, Kathleen said. Thanks for that. I will also pass the news to Zest. But the #1 hero had a smile. It was an hour in their patrol when Izuku asked, hey Star, I got a question about the gates. The two of them stopped a robbery not too long ago, and now they finished dealing with the police. Yeah? She replied, curious at what her little brother wants to ask. Is there an area of USA that monsters have broken out and are in control? Izuku asked. Sighing, she replied. Oklahoma and Kansas have areas where monsters taken over. With Alaska being the largest state, a lot of monsters have broken out of the gates. Why? I was wondering if I can send my shadows to clear the monster-infested parts. Kathleen face-palmed. I forget that you have shadows sometimes. I will make a call towards the president of the Hero Association, so you can do that. During the time Starnstipe made a call, Izuku spoke. Mikao, Beru, Pain, Igris, Baruka, Raphael. The 6 shadows came out. I am assigning a group under your control for you to kill any monsters that have broken out and take the bodies of B-rank monsters and up, then put it in the shared inventory. The only shadows that are not protecting his classmates but are looking for Nana are Tobi and Zetsu. The two of them have nearly searched the main island of Japan with unimaginable speeds, with them going to search the islands such as Hokkaido in a week's time. Kathleen interrupted Izuku. Sorry Izuku for interrupting, but can you also send shadows to Colorado, Nebraska, Iowa, and South Dakota? Both the President of USA and Hero Commission agreed and allowed you to keep the monster corpses and stones if you deal with the gates in those states too. Then she added in her mind. It is a fair reward, I won't lie, they know that Izuku can do it and it will make America safer for some time. Izuku nodded and muttered. Oklahoma, Kansas, Colorado, Nebraska, Iowa and South Dakota, with Alaska. I hummed. Conan, can you come out too? With those 7 shadows, with them all being in the captain class, came out. Star could feel that all of these shadows are low national level, with some nearing the mid-national level. Tell the president of the Hero Association that I will be sending shadows to the 7 mentioned states, but I will also be sending others around America to clean up all gate breaks. Star nodding in thanks and told him some places that had reports of some monster breakouts. Heroes deal with them, but they are beginning to get overwhelmed as more and more gates open with more monsters coming out. I need you all to kill of all monsters, complete all gates, collect all monster corpses and magic stones too. I finished. Mikao, take all of the Nomu, the Lightning Dracos and Kakuzu with you. You will be going to Oklahoma. That group dispersed after they bowed, then Izuku got Beru. Beru, you will be going to Kansas with Ant Soldiers, Poison Dracos, Dark and Gothic Vampires, and Haiden. That group dispersed after bowing. Pain, you will be going to Colorado with Tadara, the Fire Dracos, the Seductive Vampires, and the Vodunoi and Alchemist. With them bowing, they left to their destination. Igris, you will command the Knights and all of the High Orcs including Tusk. You will also have the Mages, Itachi and the Earth Dracos, and you will go to Nebraska. After they bowed, they left too. Baruka, you will be going to Iowa with Sasori, the Wind Dracos, the Elder Vampires, all Ice Elves, Fluffy and the rest of the Ice Bears, and finally all Snow Golems including Golu. Whilst this was the largest group so far, they have weaker strength on average, so after they bowed that group left. Raphael, you will be taking Orochimaru, Uriel, Zadkiel, the Water Dracos, the Virtues, the Thrones, and the 10 and remaining 8 winged angels. You will be going to South Dakota. With that they bowed and left. Finally Conan, you will be going to Alaska. Izuku smiled towards the lone Akatsuki female. As it is the biggest state of USA, you will be in charge of more shadow than the others. Izuku thought that he saw Conan blush, but she blushed due to the trust her liege is putting on her. You will be taking both the light and dark Dracos, Fisher, the Rusalkas, the last Leshy, and both serpents of the light and dark. Have fun. With now the biggest group that numbered 240 bowed and left towards Alaska. Izuku ignored Kathleen that had her eyes were widened. Darkness and light hatchlings, power angels, cherubs and four-wing angels, please go to the areas where Starnstipe showed, but make rounds around USA to make sure no monster is out of the gates. With that they left after bowing. Now just to make sure no gates appear on the sea with monsters on the loose in the waters. Thisam and Dracula will take 30 Naga each and see both sides of the American Ocean. With the 62 splitting in two groups after they bowed, with Kissam's group going west whilst Dracula's group is going to the east side. 2. I won't lie, but you could easily take over any country you want. Star said. Izuku just waved her off. Too much paperwork. With him joking with Star and Stripe laughing too. But I don't want to, even if I can, there is no point. Then the two were joined with Gabriel on their night patrol in California. 1. Groups. Nomu ranking system. Normal grade Nomus are low tier. Elite grade Nomus are mid tier. Night grade Nomus are upper tier. Elite night grade Nomus are near high end. Captain grade Nomus are high end. General grade Nomus are upper high end. Commander grade Nomus are perfect tier. Number grade and number grade Nomus are ultimate tier. Macau team to Oklahoma. Macau LV.47, Captain. 3-faced high-end Nomu. Bikazu, LV.11, Captain. 50, Lightning Draco LV.3, Captain. Prunk LV.2, Captain. High-end Nomu. 3 near high-end Nomu LV.17, Elite Knight. 10, Upper Tier Nomu LV.26, Knight. 8, Upper Tier Nomu LV.6, Knight. Beru team to Kansas. Beru, LV.47, Captain. Iden LV.5, Captain. 50 Poison Draco LV.3, Captain. 31, Dark Vampire LV.34, Elite Knight. 24 Gothic Vampire LV.34, Elite Knight. 20 Ant Soldiers LV.25, Elite Knight. Pain team to Colorado. Pain LV.34, Captain. Vidara LV.13, Captain. 50, Fire Draco LV.3, Captain. 4 Seductive Sinning Vampire LV.35, Elite Knight. 14, Vodunoi LV.28, Elite Knight. 46, Alchemist LV.24, Elite Knight. Vigorous team to Nebraska. Vigorous LV.32, Captain. Itachi LV.21, Captain. 50, Earth Draco LV.3, Captain. Dusk LV.25, Elite Knight. 6 Magicians LV.23, Elite Knight. 20 High Orc Bodyguards LV.10, Elite Knight. 33, Knight LV.3, Elite Knight. 20 High Orc LV. 20, Knight. Baruka team to Iowa. Baruka, LV.31, Captain. Sasori LV.11, Captain. 50, Wind Draco LV.3, Captain. 4, Elder Vampire LV.2, Captain. Fluffy LV.36, Elite Knight. 10 Ice Elves LV.13, Elite Knight. 20 Ice Bears LV.13, Elite Knight. Bolu LV.20, Knight. Lord of the Snow Golems. 54, Snow Golem LV.1, Knight. Raphael team to South Dakota. Raphael LV.27, Captain. Orochimaru, LV.20, Captain. Uriel LV.16, Captain. 50, Water Draco LV.3, Captain. Zadkiel LV.3, Captain. 7, Virtues LV.33, Elite Knight. Then 10 Winged Angels LV.29, Elite Knight. 28 8 Winged Angels LV.21, Elite Knight. 22 more are in Japan and 1 with Zest. 8 Throne Angels LV.12, Elite Knight. Conan team to Alaska. Conan LV.20, Captain. Fisher LV.16, Captain. 50 Serpent of Light LV.13, Captain. 50 Serpent of Darkness LV.13, Captain. Leshy LV.4, Captain. Starnstipe, Najire, Shoko, and Heian has 1 each. 50 Darkness Draco LV.3, Captain. 50 Light Draco LV.3, Captain. 37 Rusalka LV.15, Elite Knight. Around USA. 100 Darkness Hatchling LV.26, Captain. 100 Light Hatchling LV.26, Captain. 35 Power Angels LV.8, Elite Knight. 6 Wing. 30 Cherub LV.29, Knight. 44 Winged Angels LV.26, Knight. Ocean. Isam, LV.21, Captain. Dracula, LV.20, Captain. 60, Naga LV.15, Night. Towards the end of the night patrol at California, Izuku and Kathleen split up, with Kathleen being at the north side of California, whilst Izuku was on the south, to be more precise, San Diego. He was leisurely flying using flight when something took his attention. A spear, to be more precise. Gabriel, can you stay on one of these building tops hidden? If I think it is who I think it is, I will need you outside of my shadow. Izuku spoke. Izuku caught the spear with his hand and crushed it. Sure, darling. Gabriel then hid herself on top of the building, with Izuku flying downwards to meet a man who has small smirk on his face. That man had a black compressed shirt, baggy tan colored trousers, with a black belt around the waist, and finally black martial arts slippers. The man had green eyes and black hair reaching his ears, with him having a scar on the corner of his right lip. There was also a purple creature that looked like an overgrown worm going from his chest to it, resting above his shoulders. 1. Izuku recognized that man. The hero hunter Toji Fushiguro. You're the only man that is wanted in North and South America for killing 3 national rank heroes and 34 S rank heroes. 2. I see you have heard of me. Now will you become my 4th national ranker? Toji stated instead of asking. Quirking an eyebrow. Why me? And why in San Diego instead of a different place? Izuku asked. Some people want you dead and they are paying really good money for you, head. Sighing. Would you be so kind by telling me who I have to capture after I capture you? The smirk was the response. You will be dead anyways, it's a guy named Overhaul from Japan. 4. Izuku eyes minimally widened. Ah, thank you. At that moment of time Izuku dodged a slash that from a chain that has a spearhead at the end. But that Izuku jumped back, but for some reason Izuku couldn't summon his shadows. Ah, I see you caught on. A smirk appeared on Toji's face. All of your shadow soldiers that are in your shadow can't escape. My quirk allows me to completely nullify one ability of my opponent for some time, with your shadows being the biggest cause for concern. However, Izuku smirked, as he still had hundreds of shadows out and about, awaiting his call. Whilst I love my shadows, I know I can defeat you. But first let's get into a less populated area, shall we not? Izuku smiled, as Izuku rushed and kicked Hero Hunter in the side, making him fly towards the beach. Gabriel, can you join in 2 minutes? Izuku asked telepathically, with her agreeing readily. Now standing up, Toji stretched and blocked Izuku's slash from Samehada. With a 3-section staff that came out of the worm's mouth, it made a creator on the ground that can be compared to an All Might punch at 50%. Izuku jumped up, but to his surprise Toji was behind him. However, there are hundreds of basketball-sized flying insects that tried attacking the monarch. 2. Quickly activated Infinity, Izuku tried to block the inverted Spear of Heaven, but to his surprise, the spear nullified the Infinity, making Izuku become punctured on his shoulder, bypassing the cloak too. Being in a little shock, Toji pulled the spear back and punctured Izuku 4 times in the chest, and a final stab through the neck of Izuku, allowing the spear end to be seen at the back of Izuku's neck. But what shocked the bounty hunter was that even with the inverted Spear of Heaven through Izuku's neck, Izuku held on to Toji with him being punched back. 1. The Greenette went on his knees coughing up blood, trying to use healer on himself, but he saw Toji inject himself with trigger. I never used this, but you are the hardest target to kill Monarch. Now all of your powers are deactivated. Shit. Gabriel, help. Izuku barely dodged the playful cloud, with Izuku not being able to use any skills. How the fuck does his quirk work? The Greenette couldn't help but think. The HP was lowering, and fatigue was increasing at a faster rate, holding pressure onto his throat, whilst hoping he can survive long enough. Fatigue. 86. HP. 3,604 49,490. A small smile appeared on his lips seeing Gabriel coming over and sending multiple light spears at Toji. Darling. Gabriel shouted in worry. You will be alright. Izuku didn't know if she was trying to reassure herself or Izuku, but allowed Gabriel to start healing Izuku a bit. After the throat was closed. His weapons. One of them can bypass my Infinity. Now Gabriel was healing the 5 other punctures, but they will leave a scar until Izuku falls asleep. His quirk doesn't allow me to use any of my skills. Then Izuku saw that Toji came back with a weapon that Izuku doesn't want it to be tested on his shadows, so he pushed Gabriel away, having his left arm chopped off. Fuck. The split soul katana does what its name says, it splits the soul from the object, Aka. If it cut a shadow down, the shadow soldier dies. Haha, sacrificing your arm so your precious shadow wouldn't actually die. Toji stated with some laughter. Izuku felt light, he began to understand. He could feel his skills slowly unlocking one by one, but a new skill is what he needed. A small smirk appeared on the bloody and punctured form of Izuku. Smoke screen. Alarm. New skill has been discovered. Skill. Smokescreen LV.1, active. The fourth gift from All Might's predecessors. It produced smoke around the user to negate any vision and hearing to everyone bar your own. The higher the level, the denser the smokescreen becomes. 100 MP to activate and 10 MP per second to make the mist expand. The mist was formed. Izuku could feel that the smoke was made up of water. He rushed in and continued on the attack, with Toji barely beginning to block attacks. Izuku sent out a couple of reds from gravity manipulation as he felt that skill being able to use. Seeing that the man was blocked, Izuku held him with Darkness Overlord whilst Gabriel went behind the man and neck chopped him, knocking the man out. Thank you, Gabriel, you literally saved my life. I stumbled towards Toji to tie him up and collect all of the weapons for them not to get into anyone's hands. Item. Split Soul Katana, rank SS. Item. Inverted Spear of Heaven, rank SS. Item. Chain of 1,000 Miles, rank S. Item. Playful Cloud, rank S. During this time, when Izuku was binding up Toji and collecting the weapons, Gabriel went towards the worm and killed it with her heel. Then she placed it in Izuku's inventory. Now Izuku stood up with a missing left arm, 4 stab wounds in his chest, 1 in his shoulder, and a partially healed scar on his neck. He only thought one thing. Tobi, Zetsu. Every shadow in Japan. Drop what you are doing and kill Overhaul. With that, Izuku kneeled down as his fatigue was 98. Japan. Tobi, Zetsu. Every shadow in Japan. Drop what you are doing and kill Overhaul. That was the order that Izuku Midoriya, otherwise known as their liege, spoke through his mind. Now Zetsu, Obito, 3 Leshy, Slimy, Beast, 22 8-winged angels, Luna and Donald got that order, so they silently left the shadows of the people they were assigned to and moved towards the base that Overhaul is using. Shadows in Japan. Donald LV.2, Knight. Great Siberian Bison. Luna LV.7, Knight. White Tiger Boss. 22, 8-winged angels LV.21, Elite Knight. Beast LV.3, Captain. High-end Nomu. 3, Leshy LV.4, Captain. Zetsu, LV.5, Captain. Slimy LV.22, Captain. High-end Nomu. Tobi, LV.32, Captain. It was getting dark, and now the 31 shadows met up in an abandoned building, not that far from Overhaul's base to plan. Zetsu scouted and told that the 8 precepts of death, Overhaul and his left and right hand man, also was there. There was a problem, and that there was an old man in a comatose state and a child who looked to be experimented who were there too. Shadows when Izuku commanded them to clear USA of monsters and gates. All shadows knew that if they will be at their level cap, that they will be promoted instantly. Their liege rarely does it as it strains his mind, but when Izuku reached intelligence 528, he can occasionally do some orders automatically. Now each group has to go to their state, or in some instances the rest of the states, with some taking 30 minutes and the rest 2 or 3 hours. If the group finished their state, they were commanded to go outwards from that state into the rest of the USA to the states that have less monsters. Mikau team to Oklahoma. Mikau LV.47, Captain. 3-faced high-end Nomu. Bikazu, LV.11, Captain. 50, Lightning Draco LV.3, Captain. Trunk LV.2, Captain. High-end Nomu. 3 near high-end Nomu LV.17, Elite Knight. 10, Upper Tier Nomu LV.26, Knight. 8, Upper Tier Nomu LV.6, Knight. Mikau, the 3-faced Nomu that Izuku defeated with Star and Stripe on Island, got his orders, and with the 73 shadow soldiers under his command traveled to Oklahoma. Getting there in just under 30 minutes, they saw the problem. The countryside that has mountains had monsters and a lot. If Mikau could have guessed, then over 500 monsters, from E rank to A rank, and his liege wanted every corpse in crystal. Now the highest ranking Nomu in the army wanted to become a general, with 3 levels to go, and the knowledge that his liege will be proud of him, he set to work. He commanded the Lightning Dracos to surround Oklahoma, with a Nomu scattered in between them bar Trunk. With himself starting from the east, Trunk from the south and Kakuzu from the north of Oklahoma. The 74 shadows began going closer and closer to the western side, as the east had less monsters loose. However, all of the shadows noticed one thing quickly: there are some replicas of some shadow soldiers in monster forms, such as the vampires. It only took them a total of 5 hours for all monsters to be cleared. That included the gates, crystal collection and killing of monsters that have escaped. Mikau grinned, seeing that he is a general now, his liege will sure be proud of him. Beru team to Kansas. Beru, LV.47, Captain. Iden LV.5, Captain. 50 Poison Draco LV.3, Captain. 31, Dark Vampire LV.34, Elite Knight. 24, Gothic Vampire LV.34, Elite Knight. 20 Ant Soldiers LV.25, Elite Knight. Kansas, a country 1.2 times bigger than Oklahoma, had 126 shadows, all under the command of Beru. The lovable gluttonous ant and his team only took just over 30 minutes to get to Kansas from California. The strategy was similar to the Oklahoma team, but with more shadows of a higher grade, they finished the whole of the state in 4 hours. Beru was having the time of his life. He was eating monster arms, heads, legs, torsos, but not the whole body, just parts. That is what he said to himself anyways. The ant captain realized that eating monsters whilst giving minor boons, they really give nothing compared to when he ate the slime no more muscular. Now the ant can produce extra muscle to either protect himself or be faster and stronger, but Beru didn't even need to use it. Pain team to Colorado. Pain LV.34, Captain. Adara LV.13, Captain. 50, Fire Draco LV.3, Captain. 4 Seductive Sinning Vampire LV.35, Elite Knight. 14, Vodunoi LV.28, Elite Knight. 46, Alchemist LV.24, Elite Knight. Payne's team only took 15 minutes to reach Colorado. On the way to that state, the group already had to deal with over 100 monsters from Utah. In Payne's opinion, the Alchemists were more useful than the second in command, who he had to use the absorption part of his ability to reduce damage of the explosions. However, the strongest Akatsuki shadow had shivers running down his spine, seeing the seductive sinning vampires whining of not getting to touch their liege. Then Colorado Payne summoned the 3-headed dog and a chimera bird for more support, as they had to deal with giants running rampant in the Grand Mesa. But at the end of the 4 hours, Payne could only smirk, seeing that he finally became a general. He finally could speak to his liege. Payne and his team finished dealing with everything in Colorado in just 30 minutes, with some shadows going to Wyoming and the others to New Mexico. Igris team to Nebraska. Igris LV.32, Captain. Itachi LV.21, Captain. 50, Earth Draco LV.3, Captain. Dusk LV.25, Elite Knight. 6 Magicians LV.23, Elite Knight. 20 High Orc Bodyguards LV.10, Elite Knight. 33, Knight LV.3, Elite Knight. 20 High Orc LV. 20, Knight. The first Knight level Shadows team only took 45 minutes to arrive at their destination. Igris had fire in his eyes, but he could only sense over 300 monsters on the loose, but well over 50 gates yet to be closed. Igris not only wanted to beat Baruka, but be closer to his beloved liege with his strength. The magicians easily showed the rest of the group where each monster was, as some of the monsters that escaped could travel underground. Baruka team to Iowa. Baruka, LV.31, Captain. Sasori LV.11, Captain. 50, Wind Draco LV.3, Captain. 4, Elder Vampire LV.2, Captain. Fluffy LV.36, Elite Knight. 10 Ice Elves LV.13, Elite Knight. 20 Ice Bears LV.13, Elite Knight. Bolu LV.20, Knight. Lord of the Snow Golems. 54, Snow Golem LV.1, Knight. Baruka, an ice elf that Izuku defeated in his first Red Gate that Heian also attended, was leading 141 shadow soldiers to a small state named Iowa. Whilst it may have taken them over an hour to get there, they finished getting rid of the monsters and gates in less than 2 hours. Now Baruka and Sasori split the group in two, with Baruka heading to Minnesota and Wisconsin, whilst Sasori went to Illinois and Indiana. 4. Raphael team to South Dakota. Raphael LV.27, Captain. Orochimaru, LV.20, Captain. Uriel LV.16, Captain. 50, Water Draco LV.3, Captain. Zadkiel LV.3, Captain. 7, Virtues LV.33, Elite Knight. Then 10 Winged Angels LV.29, Elite Knight. 28 8 Winged Angels LV.21, Elite Knight. 8 Throne Angels LV.12, Elite Knight. The second most powerful angel in Izuku's army, Raphael, was in command of his younger brother Uriel and Orochimaru, with both of them being significantly smarter than himself. So after the hour journey to South Dakota, he asked the two shadows produce a plan that will be executed. It only took 3 hours to finish dealing with everything in South Dakota, so the group split into 3. With Orochimaru, some Dracos and the 8 Winged Angels went to Wyoming. Uriel took some of the Dracos, the Thrones and Zadkiel with him to North Dakota. Finally Raphael went towards Montana with the rest of the Dracos and the 10 Winged Angels, with the other 2 groups heading to that state after dealing with their own. Conan team to Alaska. Conan LV.20, Captain. Fisher LV.16, Captain. 50 Serpent of Light LV.13, Captain. 50 Serpent of Darkness LV.13, Captain. Leshy, LV.4, Captain. 50 Darkness Draco LV.3, Captain. 50 Light Draco LV.3, Captain. 37 Rusalka LV.15, Elite Knight. It took Conan and her group nearly 3 hours to reach Alaska. Straight of the bat Conan made the Dracos deal with the islands that Alaska held. This left her with Fisher, the Serpents, Aleshi, and the Rusalkas under her command. Conan made the Serpents to surround Alaska and go in eliminating all of the foes, with Leshy starting from the south, Fisher from the north, Rusalka from the east and herself from the west. Conan really hoped that she could upgrade to the general rank so she can finally speak to her liege. She remembered the fight and the last wish to be reborn as a shadow soldier, and her thoughts also turned out to be true. Only the loyalties changed, so instead of hearing the female voice saying to protect the place where she battled her liege and her liege's girlfriend, her mind tells her to protect and listen to Izuku. Conan's own personality didn't change, as she still loves playing with cuddly things or other fluffy shadows, such as the animal look-alike shadows. The team that was in Alaska took nearly 7 hours to finish everything. They would have finished in over 11 hours if some of the other shadows from different states hadn't helped. Now Conan and the shadow soldiers that came to help her and her team are returning to Izuku. Around USA. 100, Darkness Hatchling LV.26, Captain. 100, Light Hatchling LV.26, Captain. 35 Power Angels LV.8, Elite Knight. 6 Winged. 30, Cherub LV.29, Knight. 44 Winged Angels LV.26, Knight. The rest of the states were done by this group doing the reverse strategy compared to the other shadow groups. The shadow of captain rank would expand spread out further and further from each other, with the elite knight and knight filling the gaps and working together to defeat some monsters. California was cleared in less than an hour, as it was thanks to Star and Stripe that the gates in California have been dealt quickly. Then they continued to Arizona, to Oregon and so forth. This group eventually joined with other shadows from other groups. The west side of America was cleared in a total of 6 hours, with all shadows going eastwards and some other shadow soldiers going to Alaska. Then one small group of hatchlings went towards Hawaii to deal with some monsters there. However, the longest state was Texas, that was completed after 8 hours due thanks to some of the teams from Oklahoma, Kansas and Colorado heading there. The eastern side of the United States was easier to complete for the shadows, as more heroes were there compared to the west side. More gates have been closed. Overall, it took all of the shadows 6 hours to complete that side, as going to Maine took pretty long. Ocean. Disum, LV.21, Captain. Dracula, LV.20, Captain. 60, Naga LV.15, Knight. The oceans were peaceful mostly. Dracula, who took 30 Naga to the west side, didn't encounter any monsters, but that group had to deal with some monsters in Oregon beaches. Kissam and his team took just over 4 hours to the east side. They have decided to go from the bottom of Texas up, eventually meeting with some other shadows in Maine. However, Kissam and the Naga had to deal with some oceanic monsters that broke from a gate in South Carolina. Fight against Doji wished the shadows. They felt their liege calling for help, but the shadows that stayed in Izuku's shadow couldn't escape. The 8 dragons commanders ordered all of the shadows, as their liege couldn't communicate with them. Lolu spoke telepathically. Can anyone help our liege? His opponent Quirk doesn't allow us to leave our liege's shadow. Bear spoke. Who is the scum that is fighting our magnificent liege? And can I kill him? Izuchi spoke. We are lucky that our liege asked at least Gabriel to stay on the rooftop. Wait, what? The water dragon sounded panicked. That worthless piece of human has a weapon that can go through all of our liege's defense and has struck our liege in the neck. Aurora spoke with worry, but every shadow was trying to get out of Izuku's shadow to help Izuku. Igra spoke in his deep tone. We are coming, I estimate 15 minutes for my team. Jinx in her seductive voice spoke. Raphael, we need your healing. Silence, the shadows who were not with Izuku began to worry as none of the dragon commanders spoke a word. My gosh, that human has a weapon that can kill us for good. Acnologia spoke in a hushed whisper. Our liege sacrificed his arm to save Gabriel. I will arrive in 10 minutes, I am flying as fast as I can. Raphael spoke, then he commanded. The angel who is with Zest and Leshy who is with Star and Stipe, get them towards our liege. The voice of Raphael whilst commanding was filled with worry. Yes, Lord Raphael. An 8-winged angel and a Leshy spoke as they materialized near both mentioned heroes. But to their surprise, the two were already rushing towards Izuku's location. Lord Raphael, both of them are already on their way. Zest should be arriving in 1 minute. Then the Leshy spoke. Star will be arriving in 10 minutes. Back with Izuku. After the command he gave to the shadow soldiers that are located in Japan, Izuku kneeled down and coughed up some blood, with Gabriel trying to heal Izuku. Tears were coming from the angel's face, with Izuku lifting his remaining arm to wipe the tears that came from Gabriel's face. Don't cry, Tenshi, I will be alright. A small smile came on Izuku's face, not knowing if he might actually fully recover or not. More tears came from Gabriel's eyes, seeing her lover in this state. Her eyes turned murderous towards the tied and unconscious body of Toji, with her trying to walk towards him. However, Izuku gently grabbed Gabriel's hand. "It is not worth it." Izuku muttered, coughing up more blood, as using healer allowed some of his stab wounds, so start closing up. At that moment people began to arrive, and they gasped seeing what happened. It was some of the heroes from Star and Stripe Agency that included Zest. "Izuku," she whispered, seeing the greenette missing an arm, with multiple body punctures, with the woman going towards him. "What happened?" she asked gently, while some of the other heroes were trying to heal Izuku up and take the unconscious form of Toji to prison. However, as the fight was big and noisy, not only were the heroes who came, but reporters too. When the camera zoomed into Izuku, who was standing up from his kneeling position with a missing arm, all bloodied with 4 stab wounds on his chest and arm, with a scar on his neck, everyone was horrified. But when the camera zoomed out, the infamous Toji Fushiguro, a national level villain, was tied up. Then from all around them, shadow soldiers were coming back, with Raphael landing just behind Izuku, and with him began to heal up the standing form of Izuku Midoriya. Back with Izuku, he was coughing up the excess blood as his wounds were healed thanks to Raphael. "Thank you, Raphael." Izuku spoke with a raspy whisper. However, much to Izuku's surprise, Raphael replied gently with a smile. "Worry not, my liege, I'll always stand by your side. I am glad you are better now." Raphael didn't use his commanding voice, but a gentler one, as he, as all of the other shadow soldiers, respected Izuku the most. The healers who tried to heal Izuku moved away, knowing who Raphael is, the best healer in Izuku's shadow army. Izuku's eyes became a little moist. "I am glad you became a general, Raphael, we can finally talk." The greenette loved his shadows as if they were his children, a weird way of thinking, but with the exception of Gabriel, who was his lover, they were all children in the eyes of Izuku. "We should celebrate when the shitstorm is over." He chuckled. Raphael only beamed in happiness. "Thank you, my liege. However, your arm. I cannot heal it, it's as the soul is missing of your arm." It was Gabriel who spoke in a whisper. "It was a sword who cut of Darling's arm, that sword could have permanently killed us." A shudder ran through her spine, but other shadows too. Pain materialized near with him too, speaking. "I am glad you are better, my liege, all of us were worried that our mental connection was lost." Pain's voice sounded mature with some gruffness, but not the gruffness one gets with age. Izuku smiled weakly. "I am happy you are a general too, Pain. Let's all talk later, as you can see, we have more people here." With a nod, every shadow who was coming from around USA went into Izuku's shadow, to the exception of Gabriel, Raphael, and Pain. Zest in the meantime was having her mouth open. She remembered when Izuku introduced Gabriel and her rank during the gate she did when she taught Izuku's group with weapons. 2 more general level shadows. They are mid to high national level, and I am pretty sure they were captain level with half a dozen or so. Zest's mind was in a whirlwind of thoughts. But she hugged Izuku after everything bar his left arm was healed. "I am glad you are okay." Izuku groaned. "You are hugging me too tightly, Zest." Izuku chuckled, wrapping his remaining arm around the hero. After 20 seconds the two broke the embrace when suddenly Kathleen was seen shooting straight for Izuku. Izuku gulped slightly, seeing the woman going for a bear hug, and placed his right hand into a hugging position. The number 1 hero gasped and hugged Izuku straight into her chest, whilst some tears escaped her eyes. "Where is that fucker, can I kill him?" she asked as her protective nature of the older sister began showing. Izuku ignored Gabriel, Raphael and Pain, who nodded to Kathleen's amazing idea, with him sighing. "Toji Fushiguro is captured, the other heroes and police are taking him to prison." Izuku pointed his head to the unconscious form of Toji. "Toji, you mean that the Toji Fushiguro who is the high-ranking hero bounty hunter?" Izuku just gave a nod, and Star and Stripe just hugged Izuku tighter. "I am glad you won and are safe. Although, what are you doing about your arm?" she asked, worried. "I have a way." Izuku smiled lightly as he summoned a bottle from his inventory and began drinking it. Holy Elixir of Healing 4/6. Item class. S. Type. Consumable. A mysterious potion that can cure any disease and heal everything from a missing limb to a failing heart. The effect will only take place when the entire bottle has been consumed, and life energy will be given once again. 3. Then, to everyone's surprise, the arm who Raphael couldn't regrow began forming, and all scars that would be gone by the next day were gone. It only took 30 seconds for Izuku to look as good as new, if you ignore his clothes that had puncture and slash marks. "Fuck. This feels so good." Izuku moaned out, feeling his body return to the condition before the battle. The wording Izuku used can be interpreted in many different ways. Pain and Raphael face palm chuckling, Gabriel and Zest both had blushes hearing the moan, finally Star and Stripe only chuckled at her younger brother figure. "So do you have many of these potions?" Kathleen asked. Izuku shook his head and spoke quietly. Only 4 left, these potions heal the soul too, compared to me and my shadow's healing that only heals the body. The reporters came rushing towards Izuku after they got out of the shock. Monarch. What happened here? Then another question. You have captured Toji Fushiguro, a wanted criminal in both North and South America, your thoughts? Izuku rose his hand up to quiet the reporters down. I was patrolling the south side of California when a spear was thrown at me. So I checked who threw it and it was Toji Fushiguro. We battled and at the end I won. His quirk was pretty annoying, but I am glad we fought on the beach instead of the city as he originally wanted. He explained quickly. Another reporter asked. Why didn't your shadows help? I sent them all out around the USA to kill of all monsters that have broken out of the gates and to clear gates, I only had Gabriel with me. Izuku spoke, but telepathically he said to his shadows, I am sorry guys, but I won't tell that you were here. The reason is because if someone breaks Toji out and gives him trigger, we would be in bigger trouble. The shadows agreed, all thinking that the thinking of their liege was correct. Star and Stripe came towards Izuku and spoke to the reporters. Toji Fushiguro will be heading to jail now, and if you wouldn't mind, we will be taking our leave. Izuku whispered to Kathleen. Want to do something crazy? With her giving a nod, Izuku spoke. Lolu, come forth. With that a white dragon with 4 white wings that had black shadow mist coming from her wings, the dragon stood at a height of a length of 360 meters, with her height being around 50 meters. Let's get on. But that Izuku used gravity manipulation to pull himself, Zest, Star and Stripe, whilst Gabriel flew up, with Pain and Raphael going back to Izuku's shadow. Let's go Lolu. With that the dragon who can control light flew off towards the agency of Star and Stripe. What the hell? We know that you had dragons but not big as these. Zest shouted as she was hugging Izuku's chest for her dear life, her body was flailing in the air whilst Lolu flew. Kathleen only laughed as she stood normally atop of Lolu. Instead of jets, a dragon can be a good alternative. She began mumble in excitement. Gabriel was sitting by Izuku with her head on Izuku's shoulder. This was a tiring day. Isn't it nighttime already in Japan? Izuku nodded. Yeah, it's Saturday, I still have to go to France after this. Izuku smiled knowing what his plan is going to be. It was time for Izuku and Kathleen to finish their patrol anyways. Back in Japan shadows. Nearly everyone was asleep, some guards were patrolling, but that was it. Toby as the de facto leader ordered every shadow present, our job is to be stealthy, we are getting revenge for our liege, but we don't want him to face consequences of our actions. Every shadow nodded. Angels, you will use your magic to kill the guards. I will deal with Overhaul. Slimy, you will have to deal with Chronostasis, Donald and Luna will be your backup because of his quirk. Zetsu, as you can go underground, Mimic is your target. Beast and the Leshy will deal with the 8 precepts of death, Zetsu make clones to help Beast, and Leshy's defeated them all quickly. Remember, we need them dead as fast as possible. The angels will continue killing of the grunts. Then Toby took a breath. Then we will have to clean up the base, look for anything and inform our liege of the little girl and the old man. With that the shadows acted. Surrounding the base, the shadow soldiers moved through the shadows of the night, with the angels killing the guards quickly and efficiently, then placing the bodies in the shared inventory. Zetsu already created over 100 clones to help the angels kill of all of the grunts that numbered over 200. Whilst that was happening, Zetsu himself went towards Mimic, a small black creature with a white mask that had stitches at the front and 2 holes on the side. The general manager, who is also a B-rank villain, was in his room reading a book when his head was eaten by Zetsu, killing of the villain. Zetsu didn't have gluttony like Beru, but he could digest humans, gaining a fraction more power, with the shadow placing the half-eaten body of Mimin in the shared inventory. Slimy with Donald and Luna traveled towards Chronostasis, another B-rank villain who had arrow-shaped his hair. He was sleeping when he felt something, waking up he instantly used his hair to slow down Slimy, but when he was about to shout something, the slime covered the villain's mouth, suffocating him. Donald and Luna nodded at Slimy and went towards the other grunts, not needing to help Slimy anymore. With that, Chronostasis body was placed into the shared inventory. The 8 bullets, comprised of 7 C-rank villains and 1 B-rank villain, were in their private quarters. Beast and the Leshy silently emerged from the shadows. The Nomu quickly snapped Rakia Katsukum's neck, whilst the Leshy used their wood manipulation to stab Kendo Rappa, Dodoro Sakaki, Hijiki Tengai and Sorimitsu Tabe in the heart. Yuhoho quickly crystallized his body, but Beast quickly used his hand to pierce Yu's body, killing him. Shin Namoto and Toya Satsuno stood back to back, but the quirk's confession and larceny were useless, so they decided to inform others, but sadly for them they couldn't. 2 Leshy extended their arms and killed them by piercing them. All of the bodies were placed in the shared inventory, whilst the 4 started to clean up the mess they made. Toby materialized behind Overhaul and with a kunai, he slashed Overhaul's neck, or tried to at least. Overhaul was considered a B rank villain, but his actual rank is A rank, however the target on capturing him was of an S rank due to the quirk cancelling bullets. I transformed his arm to make a metal spike, but to his surprise Toby used permeation to make his hand go through Overhaul's and cut his neck, then with his hand, he stabbed the leader in the heart. With that Toby killed the man who sanctioned the murder of his liege. Now he had to clean up as he placed Overhaul's body in the shared inventory. One of the angels found a laboratory, with it holding a table used for experimentation. It found 5 bullets in one case that if the angel guessed right, could destroy a quirk factor. The child was still sleeping peacefully, so one of the angels, knowing the official rate of the base will be in around 30 hours, summoned food from the shared inventory and left it there. The 8-winged angel also made sure that the child had everything it needed to survive over a day alone. Not knowing that the small child saw it come in and place more food than she ever got and left, with the child leaving her bed to see that her room not only was tidied up, but also had access to the bathroom, more water and some toys. "Thank you, Angel," she whispered as she headed back to bed with a bunny toy. 4. The old man was left in his comatose state, but the angels made sure there was no life-threatening injuries on the man and made sure his equipment would continue to work. The angels continued to kill the grunts, but also made sure that there was no cameras as they cleaned up the bodies. Overall, the shadow soldiers dealt with Shai Hasekai in less than 20 minutes, leaving it spotless and without evidence they were there. With all of them being happy as they got revenge for their liege as they returned to their respective tasks or humans they were tasked to protect. Amik. Izuku just left the Dragon Gate with Gabriel, however to his surprise he wasn't on the Himalayan mountains, but in a place where the skies were purple. "Tenchi, where are we?" Izuku asked his girlfriend. "I have no idea, darling, this doesn't feel like human world," Gabriel replied. So the two decided to leisurely fly until 4 beings levitated in front of Duo only 30 minutes later. Lucifer, Beelzebub, Leviathan and Asmodeus all were floating in front of the 2 beings that came out of nowhere. "Names and tell why you are in hell," the leader asked. Izuku quirked an eyebrow. "I am Izuku, and this is my girlfriend Gabriel. Why are we in hell?" Gabriel nodded, also having her head tilted. "I wonder that too, darling. Although they feel like the demons we faced not long ago, but not the same." Leviathan, the only female of the 4, spoke. "Gabriel. Why do you not look like an angel but a fallen angel?" Both Gabriel and Izuku blinked. "There are actual angels. And not monsters from gates." With a lazy rising of an eyebrow, Asmodeus asked. "What are the gates you speak of?" Izuku spoke. "There are portals to another world or dungeons that you can pass into by a gate. They appeared on Earth just 2 months ago. But who are you for?" With a mock bow, Lucifer began introducing himself. "Where are my manners? I am Lucifer. This lady is Leviathan. The one with fly wings is Beelzebub. Finally the lazy on is Asmodeus." Izuku and Gabriel nodded. "Nice meeting you. Although do you know of how we can get back to Earth?" Leviathan shook her head. "It seems you have come to a different plane of existence. Our Earth isn't as advanced as yours seems to be, by comparing your clothes or even having powers." She licked her lips. Gabriel and Izuku looked at each other, then at the 4 devils and back at each other. "I guess it was nice meeting the 4, we will be going or trying to leave." With that Izuku used Kamui to teleport outside of hell somehow. Leviathan pouted. "I hoped he could have stayed, it would have been so much fun breaking him." She licked her lips. Beelzebub snorted. "He would have folded you in 2. Did you not feel the army he is hiding in his shadow?" Lucifer nodded. "I am glad we didn't have to fight, although I am more curious about what happened with Gabriel, as she was an exact replica of the angel Gabriel, but smaller breasts." The final devil nodded. "I agree, she was 106 instead of our Gabriel's 90. The 2 other males nodded with a perverted smile. Whilst Leviathan was brooding of not having a play toy. With everyone on Lolu. Izuku, Gabriel, Kathleen and Zest continued to fly on Lolu for another 10 minutes when the dragon commander lowered herself down. As she touched the ground the 4 jumped off with Zest kissing the ground. "I missed you, Earth." The 3 others chuckled lightly seeing the air rank hero hugging the ground. It might have been because of her quirk allowing her to use Earth, but the #1 hero of America asked her intern. "I am curious why we are here, Izuku." Izuku smiled gently. Whilst he was healed by Raphael and the potion, the greenette had a busy weekend, and with his mental fatigue rising gradually, he faked feeling better expertly. Last Sunday he came back from a national level gate that his system gave him, that the world believes was an S rank. Instantly he had to deal with his dad's death. Then he took down the HPSC and rebuilt a new one with All Might, the Japanese president, and the head of the police. This was both Monday and Tuesday. During this time he saw his father's dead body the day after the gate and had to deal with the supernatural. Wednesday not only he took his classmates to a gate and finally have a contract signed. Thursday was his father's fake funeral and entertaining the attendees, then the next day after he is patrolling in USA, with it being Saturday early night in Japan. During the free time he not only sent out shadows to patrol Japan for villains, but also had the 4 winged angels and cherubs do paperwork for the criminals caught and so forth, and also shadows were sent to take down gates. So yes, this week Izuku had was one of the busiest and mentally exhausting. Because of this. With that, over 1,000 bodies of monsters were placed out of the inventory. These are B rank and A rank monsters my shadows killed from the USA, and a minority were from Japan. I also have over 6,000 monsters for me to C rank in my inventory. Gabriel chuckled seeing the 2 heroines' gobsmacked expressions. I just needed to arise them, and I didn't want to deal with reporters, that is why I wanted to leave. Izuku spoke with rubbing left arm and chuckled. Zest nodded and spoke teasingly. You know that you will have more reporters on your back from capturing Toji and having Lolu fly us out. Oh, and don't mention about how you cleared all of USA of monsters for at least a week, where the heroes will have a lighter time clearing new dungeons. Most are aware that you have dragons as everyone saw your army on Mount Everest. Kathleen spoke gently, seeing Izuku and Gabriel swept drop, neither of them realized that bit was recorded. However, Star and Stripe was thankful that all of the monsters have been cleared, like Zest was thinking she had the same thought that it will be easier to oversee, as gates are occurring fractionally faster each week. The monarch just sighed. Before that, Izuku used his eyes to point at Zest, who was looking at the corpses. Gabriel and Kathleen quickly understood and nodded, even if Gabriel reluctantly nodded. Giving a nod back to the 2, Izuku spoke. Zest, I think it is time for me to tell you my quirk. The demon-looking woman rose her eyebrow in surprise, but spoke. You don't have to if you don't want to. Izuku smiled as he spoke. My quirk is what I call a system, it is like a video game RPG. I level up, add points to my stats, got a job being Shadow Monarch. I earn so-called skills such as Fireball from quests, pure randomness, or if a certain requirement is met. This is what the Greenette told Kathleen too. It is because of my job title I can arise shadow soldiers from monster corpses as you saw in the High Orc dungeon. But some other skills are an inventory system where I hid the monsters and have this. Izuku summoned a picnic table and some breakfast as he was hungry too. I still don't know everything like who is the true creator of the system, as I thought it was the Stone Angel, but apparently it's the almighty creator. Everyone sat down around the table with them listening or eating. Zest had her eyes widen. Izuku had a more serious face on. Additionally, I failed to mention it to you Kathy, but only Gabriel, Rumi and Ajire know, as I only found out recently. The gates, they are armies that are slowly entering onto Earth. During the gate where stone statues were the enemy, I was receiving memories, that's why I couldn't move. There were monarchs and rulers fighting each other, however what I still don't understand is why they fought each other and why Ashborn, a monarch, was fighting against the rulers then some monarchs. Izuku sighed. That was also the reason why I found that gate. The 17-year-old produced a key. Originally I could open gates, but after the report of the Jeju S rank gate was the first natural gate, the rest is history. Questions. Izuku drank some tea. Kathleen asked. So the 9 groups are the monarch's armies and one being the ruler armies most likely. Izuku nodded. I am aware that rulers are in command of the angel type, Gabriel here is an example. Gabriel just nodded but was thinking. The other types such as beasts, demons, dragons, giants, humanoid, insect and snowfolk most likely have a monarch controlling them. But the undead group is what I am uncertain about, the memories said that Ashborn was the monarch of death. Izuku also failed to mention that the memories were Ashborn's, but that he inherited his power. So most likely someone else is in control of the undead. So Earth most likely will be a war zone whenever the first so-called monarch decide to come down, or even the rulers. Gabriel questioned with a hum. Most likely, that is why I am increasing my shadow soldier numbers. Izuku spoke as he started to eat a sandwich. I won't mention it to either of my superiors, we need to find out more about this before we can inform others about it. Kathleen stated, with Izuku nodding in agreement. Zest asked in an uncertain tone. Why did you say it all to me? Like everything. Don't get it wrong, she was thankful for the inclusion, but Zest not only was the weakest being A rank as the 3 others were national ranked, but it was by pure luck that she met up with Izuku. To her surprise it was Kathleen who spoke. You will be going to Japan till the New Year Zest. I have asked Izuku to help you become an S rank hero, but you can also help him with gates and patrolling. That was the plan Izuku spoke off with Nezu after coming back from America that the number 1 hero orchestrated. Firstly was a trial period that Zest didn't know she would have by teaching 10 students for a week, that is what Nezu asked for, and Zest did splendidly. Gabriel nodded. That is the least darling, and me could do after you helped greatly during the stone statue gate. The angel didn't like other women going for her darling's heart, but she did respect the woman who risked her life for her darling. So what do you say, Zest? Do you want to come to Japan with me and Gabriel? Izuku asked after he drank some tea. Some red was seen on Zest's ears as she spoke. Only if I can train to become a teacher too. I did enjoy teaching the group for weapon practice. And secretly she wished that she could become closer to Izuku. Izuku smiled warmly. That can easily be arranged. He finished speaking as he took a sandwich to his mouth. And if you want you can come with me and Gabriel after we finish the paperwork. We have to go to France first, then go to Denmark quickly too. Gabriel just nodded. Zest bowed her head. Thank you for this opportunity, I promise I will not disappoint, sensei. With a teasing tone at the end, with Gabriel giving her a stink eye, whilst Kathleen was laughing wholeheartedly. Now the monarch was idly eating and resting to reduce his fatigue as he finally looked at his notifications whilst the three women talked. You leveled up X12. Skill. Infinity leveled up from LV.3 to LV.4. Skill. Darkness Overlord leveled up from LV.2 to LV.3. Skill. Hand-to-hand Expert leveled up from LV.5 to LV.6. Well done for surpassing level 200. Now you low-mid international level hero. You are officially the strongest human. However, there are many of the supernatural that can easily trump you, so beware. Due to you surpassing level 200, you will gain 3 rewards, similar to how you got one at level 50, 100 and 150. Rewards. Reward 1. Increase of HP and MP per level and point. Reward 2. Plus 50 additional points. Reward 3. Plus 200 spaces for shadow extraction and save shadow. Reward 4. Plus 50 levels to 1 shadow soldier. 1. Izuku had his eyes widened fractionally and thought. Is it because of the creator that I am given these rewards? Then Izuku thought. Accept reward 1. Reward 1. Increase of HP and MP per level and point. HP will increase by 300 per level and 80 per vitality point. MP will increase by 80 MP per level and 50 per intelligence point. The greenette smiled internally, seeing the 2 that is he is level 202. The reward 1 was already integrated. Accept reward 3. He thought, leaving the reward 2 for later. Reward 3. Plus 200 spaces for shadow extraction and save shadow. Shadow extraction, LV.2 2085 4011 to 2085 4211. Save shadow, LV.3 2085 3207 to 2085 3407. I have more than enough spaces for all these monsters, and the extra ones I occasionally collect from Japanese gates. Izuku mused, whilst there was over 1,000 monsters in the pile he took out not that long ago. Nearly 100 of them were monsters from Japan he collected. Accept reward 2. And place 30 into sense, 10 in intelligence and 10 in agility. Izuku also saw that his shadow save and extraction limit increased from the 10 points in intelligence. Reward 2. Plus 50 additional points. Agility. 367 to 377. Sense. 377 to 407. Intelligence. 540 to 550. The conversation between the three girls stopped as they felt Izuku becoming stronger. Gabriel only smirked, having a hint of what her darling was doing now. Accept reward 4 and give it to Gabriel. Izuku smirked back at Gabriel, who had her eyes widened fractionally, although he spoke to every shadow bar Gabriel through the mind link they shared. I am sorry that I didn't use it on any of you guys. I am hoping to lift up Gabriel's spirit, as you all saw her anger at Toji. The shadows agreed nonetheless, whilst all of them wanted the increase of the levels. After some thinking they realized that this was the best idea. One reason was that Gabriel was smaller in size compared to the dragons, and secondly, all of them were scared of an angry Gabriel. Reward 4. Plus 50 levels to 1 shadow soldier. Gabriel LV.36, General. To Gabriel LV.26, Commander. 4. Well done for becoming the 3rd most powerful in the army, Tenshi. Izuku winked at her, sure this may be a cheat, but Izuku has to make sure that his army strongest also grow stronger. Gabriel had her eyes widened, but a small smile appeared. Kathleen and Zest looked lost at the secret exchange of the two, but did realize that Gabriel's power is higher than Star and Stripes, as before the two were on the same level before. The only thing that visibly changed in Gabriel was her wings becoming slightly larger. Thank you, darling. She said in a whisper as she hugged Izuku's chest, then under her breath so the other two didn't hear. I promise to become the strongest in the army and be worthy as your second in command and your lover. Izuku patted her head gently. Izuku mentally replied. You are already strong enough and I do love you, Tenshi. Then out loud he began to explain. I have surpassed level 200 in the system and I get rewards every 50 levels. This time I got an additional 50 points for my stats, 200 more spaces for my shadow soldiers, and being able to give one shadow soldier 50 levels. Zest was about to faint whilst Kathleen just laughed, clutching her sides. I won't lie, but I already gave up on understanding your quirk, Izuku, so nothing will surprise me. Heck, if you tell me that all of the mythological legends and myths were real, I would believe you. Kathleen stated, but Izuku and Gabriel chuckled nervously. I sometimes question if my luck is in the negatives. She grumbled. I won't ask about them, but the number one hero just gave up on understanding Izuku and the world there and then. Just tell me, will they be a problem or not? Izuku shook his head. They are not, so don't worry. And if they will be, we could deal with them. He said with some playful banter. To lighten the topic, Izuku joked. Who knows, we could become god slayers. Then Gabriel and Kathleen joined in, laughing. Zest looked so lost and also about to pass out from information overload that her head hit table and spoke gently. Information overload. With twirls in her eyes. Izuku just chuckled and went up the monster corpses. Her eyes. And then all 1,000 shadows began coming from the bodies, all bowing or kneeling. I am happy to have you all. The shadows that all stood in front of the Izuku had been upgraded to fit the shadow level of the same shadow soldier species, like new high orc shadows, became the same level as the old high orc shadows. Now with 1242 more shadow spaces filled, Izuku had a small smile. The rest of the bodies will be used to get more gold, and the bodies in front of Izuku too. Oh, is that the worm that Toji had? Izuku asked. Gabriel nodded to herself. It tried running away and it didn't feel like a human, so I killed it. Izuku shook his head in fondness. New shadows. Inventory curse worm LV.1, normal. Toji's curse. 70 high orc LV.2, elite knight. High orc bodyguard LV.20, elite knight. Boss of a high orc gate. 67, knight LV.16, elite knight. 20 assassins LV.10, elite. 25, archers LV.10, elite. 10, spearmen LV.10, elite. Magician LV.35, elite knight. Boss of the living armor gate. 44 winged angels LV.4, elite knight. 10, cherub LV.10, elite knight. 15, power angels LV.18, elite knight. 14 8 winged angels LV. 32, elite knight. 10 winged angel LV.39, elite knight. Boss of an angel gate. 30, ice elves LV.24, elite knight. 45, ice yeti LV.1, knight. Ice yeti boss LV. 20, knight. Boss of the ice elves and yeti gate. 65, stone giants LV.13, knight. Stone giant boss LV. 24, knight. Boss of the stone giant gate. 85 poisonous armored flies LV.15, knight. 25, poisonous mage flies LV.15, knight. Queen of the poisonous flies LV.1, elite knight. Boss of the poisonous flies gate. 15 armored horse LV.8, knight. 18 armored monkey LV.8, knight. 19 armored wolf LV.8, knight. 22, armored rhino LV.7, knight. White triple horned rhino LV.13, knight. Boss of the beast gate. 40, Cerberus LV.3, knight. 40, black shuck LV.3, knight. 40, Barghest LV.3, knight. 5-headed Cerberus LV.18, knight. 55, Bigfoot giant LV.7, knight. Wendigo LV.15, knight. The boss of the Bigfoot gate. 45, Kelpie LV.8, knight. Blue man of the Minch LV.18, knight. Boss of the Kelpie gate. 80, Cyclops LV.1, knight. 15, High Cyclops LV.10, knight. Centaur LV.23, knight. Boss of the Cyclops gate. 43, Bunyip LV.10, knight. The guardian of waterways. 35, Yaramaihahu LV.10, knight. Blood-sucking imp. Rainbow serpent LV.25, knight. Boss of the Bunyip and Yaramaihahu gate. 50, twin-headed ogre LV.1, knight. 20, triple-headed ogre LV.10, knight. Chimera-headed ogre LV.20, knight. Archlick LV.5, elite knight. Boss of the different-headed ogre gate. 30, ghouls LV.10, elite. 15, mage ghoul LV.15, elite. 25, high ghoul LV.1, knight. 10, ghoul giant LV.1, knight. 15, dark ghoul LV.1, knight. One eyes ghoul king LV.10, knight. Boss of ghoul gate. 35, ogre LV.12, elite. 6, snow golem LV.11, knight. 13, fire golem LV.4, knight. 35, skeleton warriors LV.1, elite. 18, Pegasus LV.8, knight. 46, vampire LV.5, knight. Not all of the monsters have a boss because they could have escaped the gate, with the boss staying in a gate that heroes completed later. The shadows are all beta A rank, but because I am lazy, I upgrades the shadow levels, e.g. high orcs would be in the low knight category, but as the old shadow high orcs are LV.2 elite knight, I upgraded the new ones. Some monsters such as Rainbow Serpent and its gate monsters are from Australian mythology, are from different mythology, they can also be under the beast category. Izuku smiled as the new shadows went into his shadow, as he asked. Hey Kathy. Does your government want to buy any corpses? Do you have any powerful monster corpses? They only wanted ones that are high A and upwards. The hero explained. So Izuku took all corpses bar the Archlix, queen of poisonous flies, a centaur and the 10-winged angel corpses. These 4 are high A to low S rank monsters. The others are mid A rank and lower. Izuku explained, with Izuku getting a deal with Kathleen that she will buy them from Izuku in exchange for cash. The Greenette sold all of the other corpses, getting over 500 billion gold, with only the 4 corpses remaining in his inventory. Then Izuku saw that more corpses were added. Shai Hasekai. He thought as he ignored it at that moment of time. As the 4 continued to sit, Izuku produced 2 objects, a ring and a container with 5 bullets. Zest asked. What are those 2, Izuku? These are what my shadows found. Izuku passed the 2 objects around. The bullets are quirk-destroying bullets, and the ring is called Braham's ring. He mused looking at their information the system gave him. Although he was curious how his soldiers found the ring. Item. Quirk-destroying bullet, X5. Item class. S. Type. Debuff. The bullet when hit an opponent, it will destroy the quirk factor of that person, leaving them quirkless. This works on every quirk type including mutation, transformation, emission, and accumulation quirks. Each bullet is a one-time use. Item. Braham's ring. Item class. S. Type. Accessory ceiling. Plus 20% protection against mental attacks. Braham's ring is a modified ring that can seal one entity, no matter how strong they are. The entity can be released, but the owner can control how much power can be given to the sealed entity. However, the entity sealed must give its consent. 1. Quirk-destroying bullets. So they have done it. Gabriel asked with a knowing tone that the 2 American heroes didn't pay attention to, but it also could be interpreted in 2 separate ways. One way that only Izuku and Gabriel knew was that the elimination of the Yakuza group was successful. The other option was what the 2 heroines thought, that the group successfully produced bullets to destroy quirks. Yes, they did. I will have a report from Toby later today. Izuku hummed. Although the raid is less than 30 hours, I think we can deal with everything before then. Gabriel nodded. I agree, darling, France and Denmark shouldn't take that long. However, she did remember something. What about the Russian S-rank gate, darling? Do you know if they completed it? Kathleen broke out of her stupor looking at the bullets. You haven't heard. They have failed, it was on the news less than 2 days ago. However, when she talked about the Russians failing, a somber tone was used. Izuku and Gabriel looked at Kathleen, then at each other, then at Kathleen, and had sweat dropped. We don't really pay attention to the news, we should try keeping up. With Gabriel nodding. The number 1 hero of America face palmed. Figures, this week was hectic for you. She spoke in a sympathetic tone, then she began explaining. Valdemar and Team Alpha, a group of 12 S-ranks, went into the S-rank gate. A couple hours later, a singular S-rank was carrying an unconscious Vladimir on her back. What she said was that it was poisonous, really poisonous. Russia has 15 S-rank heroes surrounding it with over 70 A-rank heroes. Poland sent 2 S-ranks and 10 A-ranks, China sent 3 S-ranks and 20 A-ranks, Finland has sent their S-rank hero who specializes in barriers, and Belarus sent an S-rank hero and 10 A-rank heroes, with other Eastern European nations sending more A-ranks just in case. The gate will be opening sometime in the next 16 hours, and they have no way of protecting themselves against poison. Even Vladimir's quirk was useless. Vladimir and the S-rank who survived are in a medically induced coma at the moment. She explained, with Izuku and Gabriel having their eyes widen fractionally. I won't lie, but I thought the 2 of you already knew, as from what I was told, the Russians sent a message to your Hero and Hunter Association. Izuku sighed. We haven't received anything. As you are aware, All Might is the president of the Hero and Hunter Association, and even with help there is too much paperwork to do. Although Foreign Relationship Officer, which at the moment is Sir Night Eye, should have gotten the call. Doesn't he dislike you, or was it only Mirio? The strongest angel asked. Honestly, I have no idea. The only male side. Baru, apparently one of the Yakuza members, have a truth quirk. After you eat him, if the situation is right, use the ability on him. Yes, my beloved liege, I'll happily do so. The ant boss replied. Izuku could feel the happiness rolling of him. Zetsu, I know you have a similar ability to Beru, whilst you don't get their quirks or knowledge, a small part of their essence would be transferred to you. So whenever you have the time, you can use the shared inventory and eat all of the grunts up. Izuku spoke, the green-net emotions after getting the system changed slowly, whilst he feels some guilt, his gamer's mind didn't make him dwell on that fact long. Gabriel shook her head. Darling, after we deal with France and Denmark, let's go to Russia. Zest can come too as she is coming with us to Japan. She said the last part offhandedly. Hath, can you tell Russian Hero Association I will be there in 14 hours? Izuku asked. I will be sending a message to Bun Bun and Najire, I will be going to Russia. He sighed at that. Everyone act now. Izuku spoke in his mind to his shadows. Beru, Conan, and Itachi, can I entrust the three of you with the armored animal and the horse-type shadow soldiers so you can deal with the Shai Hasekai if I don't come from Russia for raid? As it's still around 29 hours till the start. Can you patrol Japan until the raid starts or until I come back to Japan? Then in his mind. Dracos, you will go with them, but as you go through Africa, see if you can kill of any monsters that are out, make sure no one sees you. And I want the Dracos to stay in Africa until Japanese Sunday evening. Izuku commanded more shadows, as he knew that Africa had no national level heroes, that continent is suffering the most, so he is going to secretly help them. The three mentioned individuals with the rest all came out of the shadow bar. The Dracos came out of the shadow with them bowing and then leaving. 1. Back to Japan team. Beru, LV.11, General. Conan LV.42, Captain. Itachi LV.35, Captain. 18, Pegasus LV.8, Knight. 45, Kelpie LV.8, Knight. 26, Armored Menki LV.8, Knight. 30, Armored Wolf LV.8, Knight. 25, Armored Horse LV.8, Knight. 22, Armored Rhino LV.7, Knight. Africa team. 50, Water Draco LV.17, Captain. 50, Earth Draco LV.17, Captain. 50, Fire Draco LV.17, Captain. 50, Poison Draco LV.17, Captain. 50, Wind Draco LV.17, Captain. 50, Lightning Draco LV.17, Captain. 50, Darkness Draco LV.18, Captain. 50, Light Draco LV.18, Captain. I think they would be more than enough to deal with them, darling. But what does the Graham ring do? She asked, seeing that there is a brown string that went through the center of the ring and with it being around Izuku's neck. The Graham's ring apparently can seal any entity inside it and I can summon it with me being able to control how much power they can have. Izuku looked at the ring. Although their loyalty would be in question still. He hummed. Zest's eyes widened. So basically you can easily seal one of the strongest beings in there without fighting it. Izuku shook his head. I need the being to agree to it first, that is the catch. With Zest nodding her head. Kathleen came back from her call. The Russian Hero Association is really thankful, the gate is still locked luckily, but they hope you come as fast as possible. Izuku smiled. Cool. Let us head back then. We can leave in 2 hours to France. Zest nodded, and with the greenette taking the table into his inventory, he used shadow exchange with a shadow he had in the California base. Now Zest left to her room to pack, whilst Gabriel went into Izuku's shadow, with the two national heroes going to finish their paperwork for the night patrol. The SA News. Good morning, America, this is John Clementine speaking on this beautiful Saturday morning. This night multiple things have happened, and I am here with Charlotte Flog to explain. John, the news presenter, started. Thank you, John. Charlotte continued. In the morning in San Diego, California, a national-ranked villain named Toji Fushiguro was captured. A clip of the villain being taken into cuffs and a containment tube. The one who captured him was the Shadow Hero. Monarch that is interning with Star and Stripe. From the reporters that came at the end of the fight, it was shown that Monarch only had one Shadow Soldier with him. The other Shadow Soldiers were around the USA, but we will be talking about that in a minute. John spoke. The quirk of Toji Fushiguro allows him to cancel an ability of his opponent, and from a blood test shows, it is said that Toji used an enhanced version of Trigger enhancing his quirk to new heights, but that Trigger also shortened the lifespan of the consumer. However. Then an image of Izuku Midoriya kneeling, then slowly standing with an arm missing and multiple stabs wounds. Sadly, Monarch was injured badly, left arm was missing with 4 chest stabs, a shoulder stab, and finally a stab wound going through his neck. He wasn't able to use his healing ability and most likely other abilities of his from Toji with Trigger. He was fortunate that his Shadow Raphael healed most of him, then he drank a potion to regrow his arm. Monarch was fighting to subdue whilst Toji was fighting to kill, and as we are aware, Toji Fushiguro killed 3 previous national ranked heroes from both North and South America. What are your thoughts of the healing, John? Charlotte asked. As you said, we believe his healing was blocked by the lingering effects from Toji Fushiguro's quirk. From our knowledge, Raphael, a 12-winged shadow angel, has the most powerful healing, even compared to Monarch's strongest shadow Gabriel. However, what puzzles me was why Raphael couldn't heal back Monarch's arm back, as we know that Raphael could regrow anything back. So I conclude the potion that Monarch used was a higher level potion of healing he is known to be able to produce. I am still curious how he makes them, as they are the most useful produce. John explained. Everyone believed that Izuku can create potions. How? No one knows, but even after the Chinese and South Koreans tried to analyze them after not using them in the Jeju Gate, they still got nothing. Now the remaining 5 unused potions have been kept by either the S-rank heroes to use as an emergency or still being experimented in labs. Thank you for the explanation, John. Now on to the point why no other shadow bar Gabriel was with Monarch. It was because he sent them all out around the USA. Now all monsters that have broken out of the gates have been killed and gates that are yet to be cleared have been completed. This includes the monster hot zone in the middle. For the next week we don't have to worry about monsters breaking out, giving our heroes and hunters a small break for them to start dealing with the gates that have appeared in the last 2 hours ago. A smiling Charlotte spoke. John then continued. We also know that Monarch has dragon shadow soldiers that we believe he defeated in the Himalaya Mountain S-rank gate. A picture of Lolu was shown. After speaking to the reporters, Monarch summoned the shadow named Lolu and left. A breath was taken. So this night behind us was good for the United States, as the one of the most wanted criminals was captured and there will be no monsters for a week. Charlotte then spoke. Continuing on, Thomas Andre, the number 2 hero of America, has dealt with one of the major mafia organizations that was terrorizing Florida, Georgia and Alabama for 3 months. The mafia organization had 2 S-rank villains and nearly 50 A-rank villains working, with many more B and C-rank villains. And so the news continued talking about Thomas Andre, other heroes, and other news. Back with Izuku, Gabriel and Zest. 2 hours later, after saying goodbye to Kathleen and the other sidekicks, the trio traveled to France by the use of Izuku's Kamui. Now the 3 were standing on a rooftop awaiting a cat hero. Good morning, you 3. Cat Noir asked in confusion. Izuku smiled as he gave a fist bump that the French hero reciprocated. Zest is a friend from America who will be accompanying us. Cat Noir, otherwise known as Adrian, had a video call with Izuku once a week, with the 2 texting nearly every day, with Lila occasionally joining in. Both knew about Izuku having 3 girlfriends. 1. Nice meeting you again, Cat Noir. Gabriel said with a nod. I'm Zest, nice to meet you. Zest said in her cool but detached tone of voice. Nice to meet you, Zest, I'm Cat Noir, Monarch told me bits about you. The French hero said, now in a more serious tone he spoke. I am glad you are here, Monarch, since the gates appeared France is having problems completing the higher level gates. Izuku nodded as the 4 of them sat down on the chimneys on a random roof. I heard about it, that is why I am here. Izuku rubbed his forehead. Compared to the other European countries, France has only 6 S-rank heroes, with you and Ladybug technically being 2 of the 6. The technically part is because the miraculous are not considered a quirk, so they are only technical S ranks, and by extension, they are also the weakest S rankers in France, as they only can use their special ability once. I was hoping to talk to the French hero president today and see if we can get Hawkmoth or some more miraculous. Zest looked lost, but Gabriel just nodded, pretending to understand, as politics wasn't her cup of tea. She prefers intimidation to talking things out. Cat Noir nodded in thanks. Hawkmoth isn't really being a problem, with him usually accumatizating someone once every 2 weeks. We only collected the dog and the fox miraculous since you've been here last, he sighed. Me and Ladybug are dealing with most gates in Paris, with the other local heroes helping too. 1. Izuku nodded. 8 out of the 19 been collected, pretty good. He smiled. The French hero shook his head. Not really, the rest are in ringed forms, and now it is nearly impossible to get any back as Hawkmoth doesn't show up. He sighed again. Let's go to the hero president and I'll help any way I can for the next 6 hours. Izuku smiled reassuringly. Zest, if you are tired, I can get you a hotel room you can sleep in. The American hero snorts and spoke. I am more worried about you, you nearly died against a national rank villain. Cat Noir's eyes had widened as he turned to Izuku, looking him up and down. Who did you fight? Are you alright? Did you win? He asked in quick succession. Chuckling, Izuku responded. As you can see, I'm all healed up, it was Toji Fushiguro, and yes, I won. He got bonked in the head from Gabriel. Darling, you had 4 chest stab wounds, a shoulder stab wound, a stab that went through your neck, and finally your arm missing. The expression on Gabriel's face was a mixture of worried, angry, self-deprecating, and loving. Izuku hugged her lightly. I'll get some rest later. With Rumi. After the fight with the Nomu with Hawks and Ryukyu, whenever she was stopped by a fan or reporter, they always asked a question. how can you use telekinesis? Or something similar. And it was grating on her nerves. She promised her love that she won't tell anyone, and she doesn't break promises. Therefore she used what All Might did when reporters asked him for his quirk, distract them or leave as fast as possible. Now whenever she patrolled, Rumi would often use telekinesis to make her life easier with taking down criminals or monsters. Rumi was in her bedroom just waking up, with her mumbling, "I miss Zuko." So after cleaning up, she got a message saying that Izuku will be going to Russia as the S-rank gate was about to break. Why does he have to deal with other countries' problem? She thought to herself, whilst she understood that gates are a problem, maybe she could convince her boyfriend into making an agency with her. Going to the news section, Maruko read an article about Izuku in America, saying he defeated a national rank villain Toji Fushiguro. But when the rabbit hero continued to read, her face turned into one of horror. Her love, her boyfriend suffered so much, even having to use the holy elixir of healing on himself to regrow an arm that Raphael himself couldn't regrow. Zuko told me that he is going to Canada after the raid tomorrow. And on Tuesday we are visiting heaven. With a determined nod she called Najair. Hoi, make sure you have free time after the operation on Sunday till Wednesday. That was my plan too, Rumi. I read what happened, and I also think that Zuzu needs rest. So I presume we are staying in Canada even after we visit heaven? Najaira asked. Yes. The both of them talked for 10 minutes and said goodbye as they would see each other in a video call later in the day that also has Izuku in it. With Najair. After showing the explosion release in her waves, she kept the infusion of explosions and illusion destroyer a secret. Herself and Rumi were fed up with people asking repetitive questions. She imagined Izuku who had to hide all of his quirk away from the rest of the world, with only herself, Rumi, Nezu and Shota Izawa knowing everything about the quirk Izuku has. Her boyfriend is asked on the daily to talk about his quirk, how he gets those potions, half a dozen of quirk marriage letters, and that was daily. Najair still used the excuse that it evolved in the gate and now is proficient in using explosions in her waves under 50% of her power. Now she ignores those questions as she did promise her boyfriend that she won't tell anyone the truth, and she didn't even feel of telling anyone as she had her boyfriend and two sisters. She was preparing breakfast for herself in Izuku's room when she turned on the TV to have it in the background. Najair nearly dropped her plate when she heard the news reporting of what happened to Izuku, his injuries and who he captured. Shock, she couldn't have moved for at least 5 minutes, then a plan on trying to have Izuku relax, as after he came back from the dragon dungeon, he couldn't relax properly. Rumi then called her, and Najair agreed and got until Wednesday off, even if it means missing school, but Nezu quickly agreed to her absence. Izuku always supported Najair, so it was Najair's turn to support Izuku. Skill. Hand-to-hand LV.6, passive. The passive skill that gives you 75% more experience when using only hands for any kind of combat against a villain or monster. The skill will increase the base speed by 5% if fighting without weapons. Skill. Darkness Overlord LV.3, active. Evolved. The combination of the skill. Shadow manipulation and skill. Black Whip, second gift from All Might's predecessors, evolved into a superior control over darkness and its shadows. Skill. Infinity LV.4, active. Allows you to distort space and time at will. Main function is to make an infinity around you so no one and nothing can touch you. 500 MP to activate and 85 MP per second to keep up. Status. Name. Izuku Midoriya. Job. Shadow Monarch. Title. The one who overcame adversary, +4. Level. 202. Fatigue. 0. HP. 52,970. MP. 135,010. Strength. 379. Agility. 377. Sense. 407. Vitality. 371. Intelligence. 550. That's it guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. With that, see y'all in the next part.